Toss, first down and then some. They gaps the defense, and he's off. Smith looked at his wrist and got time today. Wow, what a run by Abram Smith.
Welcome to Sikkim 365 Radio.
With Bo Nix. And here is Nix into the end zone for an Auburn touchdown. What a way to start the fourth quarter.
Sikkim 365 Radio is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
Play fake. Throw to the end zone. Wide open. Latu touchdown, Alabama.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
Blitz coming. It's picked up. Prescott going for it all for Cooper. He's got it. Touchdown.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
All right, here we go on another week, another weekend of evidence in college football, and numerous teams in the top 10, 15, 20, whatever you want to call it, knocked out. Some teams are trying to creep themselves back in the conversation. Alabama hammered Ole Miss, and Georgia obliterated the Arkansas train and not only beat them up, they shut them out. Oklahoma State with a very impressive win at home despite 3 turnovers, 3 interceptions. They beat Baylor. Texas back down another road towards, well, it's the weekend in the Cotton Bowl and the Red River, I call it rivalry, shootout, whatever they want to call it, between Texas and Oklahoma. That's a great game for the week. Georgia, Auburn as well. So much to get to on the set today. There is a triple chocolate bundt cake. Paula Fleck, who's one of our audience, one of our viewers and listeners, a triple chocolate bundt cake.
I thought Armstrong, he stood up right there. People couldn't see that. But Armstrong stood up there. I thought he was just going to come and get it when you said triple chocolate bundt cake. I thought he was going to grab it and abscond with it.
We're going to look at it, and we're going to probably even want to devour it in the first commercial break. Guests today include Chip Towers. He covers Georgia for the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. Ricky Thompson, Baylor sideline for Baylor Radio. David Helman on the Cowboys have won 3 straight, look really good. Barry Trammell, Daily Oklahoman on both Oklahoma and Oklahoma State. Paul Catalina's top 5. Craig Smoak to my right, Paul Catalina, and there's the triple chocolate bundt cake that we have been given. And there's a little story behind this. Paul is a Sam Houston State alum. I'm an SFA alum. The Jacks had Sam Houston State dead to rights, but couldn't hold on. They coughed it up, and so I think she just felt like she would help overcome the sorrows of the Jacks and Kobe Carthel, so close but so far away. All right, what did we learn this weekend? Fire away, Craig.
Just in regards to college football or to Baylor?
Is anything in particular that pops out besides I've mentioned 2 or 3 specific teams and games?
I mean, you mentioned a lot of the big ones. I'd have to sit and actually think about, what all stood out to me. But, I mean, as far as Baylor goes, just a, bad performance at Stillwater. They did not show up ready to play. They did not show up ready to execute. They did not show up ready to fight. And I think they saw and showed maybe some elements of those things that I just mentioned as the game progressed late. But it was too little too late. And it was too little of an effort at times. It was too little of physicality at times. It was too little of execution at times. It was too little of a lot of things. And it was, interesting to hear Dave Aranda after the game. And, I think a lot of people, that performance was bad enough where it had a lot of people just, freaking out. As much as they did not play well, they had a chance to win that game, which is the most disappointing aspect of that loss, is that you were very much in that game if you just played a little bit better and are probably 5-0, but you didn't. So it's back to the drawing board, and I think everybody's calmed down now after about a day and a half since that ended, and realize there's a long way to go, long season to go. This team by no means, down and out or going to miss a bowl game or anything like that, but if they play like that, moving forward these next few weeks, then they definitely might miss a bowl game, and they definitely might be going home early, and that's the thing that they got to get back to, and that's what I expect Dave Aranda will get them back to.
If they blank the bet against West Virginia, very similar style game maybe than what they just had in Stillwater, they have Brigham Young and then Texas coming in after that, a bye week or an off week in between. Mike Terry, how about the Cincy Bearcats?
That was a very, very, very well played game.
$20 super chat. Thank you, Mike.
Yeah,
they controlled Notre Dame the whole time. I know Jack Cohn didn't play much, if at all, in that game. I did miss a good chunk of the first part of it where he might have played, but even with Notre Dame on a backup quarterback, that's a Notre Dame defense that considered itself to be pretty good and an offense that has playmakers, and Cincinnati was all over them all day long and making a case that if they continue this run, and unfortunately for Cincinnati, they don't get a mulligan. They will not get a mulligan. They don't get an oops, our quarterback was, had COVID, or we had to go 2 time zones, or, we were all sad because we watched The Notebook before the game, whatever excuse that Alabama could use if they had a loss. But Cincinnati, if they can go undefeated, they've made a case. And I would be interested to see if they do go undefeated and say SMU stays pretty good and stays ranked and down towards the end of the year when they beat them. If Cincinnati goes through all this with that quality win over Notre Dame and then the committee still says, nah, I'm curious to hear why they would say that. What do you have to do? Because if you look at a lot of teams that wind up in the playoffs, a lot of them don't have one more than a quality win like Notre Dame. No, some of them just have one.
There's nothing that Cincinnati could do other than just the schedule Alabama, Ohio State, Notre Dame, and run the table. I've had some of you also asking about Spencer Sanders. We'll get into that Oklahoma State quarterback as well. But it's a great win for Cincy. They did what they had to do.
Yeah, they did what they had to do, and Jack Cohn got benched. Okay. I mean, that's what happened with Jack Cohn. He got pulled at halftime, so he was dealing with an injury as well. But Notre Dame made that switch. So yeah, for anybody who didn't see that full game, that's what happened there. But yeah, Cincinnati, you've got to put them in the conversation. I mean, if that win doesn't wake up everybody out there, then what win will? Like you guys are saying. So they won that game convincingly. It was not in doubt. It was in doubt towards the end if Notre Dame was going to come back. But, as far as them having a lead, holding a lead, proving the lead, they did all those things. They were the better team. They were the better team on Saturday, and they deserved to win that football game. And so for as quick as we are to give praise to the Irish or to any of the other blue blood teams out there, the moment that they get a win or go on a little bit of a run, Cincinnati's not going to get that love, but they deserve that love. They deserve to be respected the same way the other teams surrounding them are. And the only reason that they're not is because the conference is next to their name, which is ridiculous because there's big conferences like the Pac-12 that absolutely suck, and yet they would get more of a respect nod than a Cincinnati would. And I think that's wrong because Cincinnati is clearly better than most of the teams out there right now.
Yeah, elitism makes you not in touch with reality. When you're all about, well, these conferences are better, this is better, if you just always have that excuse in the back of your head, well, Cincinnati beat Notre Dame. Well, Notre Dame, clearly, they almost lost to a couple bad teams anyway, so now they're not Notre Dame. They've only lost one game, and they beat the tar out of an ACC school and a Big Ten school already. One was narrow, but they beat the tar out of Wisconsin, so...
that elitist attitude, here's the thing. Notre Dame beat Cincinnati. That's a big win for Notre Dame. They wouldn't act like it was some sort of upset, but that would be some big notch on their resume if they would have beaten Cincinnati. It would have been a top 10 win and blah, blah, blah. Cincinnati beats Notre Dame, and it's like they still are fighting for respect, and that's the elites. We hear that all the time in college football with the haves and the have-nots. The elites, the haves, don't want there to ever be any more haves. They don't want Cincinnati to be a have. And that goes to our government. That goes to everything. There's always the people at the very top, right, that don't want everybody else joining their party. And when those people try to do that, or those teams try to do that, there's a little bit of well, no, you're not as legit as us. You don't have the same key to the door as we do, and we're not. They don't want that. So
it's like at a party where there's a couple in the corner. There's like 2 or 3 people, couples in the corner, and someone walks in, and they're like, "What are they doing here?" It's like, it's kind of that look. There's so many of you on the chat room. Kay Sumbry, been waiting all weekend. Go Pokes, Oklahoma State. I don't have the name in front of me about Spencer Sanders. He's going to drive you crazy. And yet he made a play on 3rd and 14 or 12, whatever it was, that put them in position to go for it and seal the game. But he did throw some bad picks, and that's kind of what he does. Oklahoma State has the week off. They have Texas in Austin in 2 weeks.
He's one of the most infuriating players to talk about. He really is, because he is so talented in so many ways, and yet he is like bound to throw some interceptions that keep Oklahoma State in a tougher game. It's amazing. But he's a really good player, and he did make some plays on Saturday night that ended up, leading them to a win. He also, as we mentioned, made some plays that allowed Baylor to stay in that football game. I mean, if he doesn't throw those 3 picks, Oklahoma State probably wins by 40. Maybe not that much, but, they win way bigger, and there's not a chance at the end of the game for Baylor to come up and try and, win it or tie it. He's good, but he's bad at the same time, and he's just good enough, and he was good enough Saturday.
I want to meet the coach who clearly in his youth told them that taking a sack means that goblins will attack you.
Yeah.
Because he won't take a sack. But part of the reason he throws picks is because he does not accept that not every play can work out. Well, it's better to fall down for a 2-yard loss.
Better. Or even 7-yard loss.
Yeah, than to rifle it straight. And the picks he throws are not – occasionally you throw a ball too hard, it bounces off somebody's hands, there's a pick, and
he airmails guys.
But he either airmails it, or you go, that guy has a yellow shirt. Yeah. Yours is orange.
Well, he threw balls on Saturday that were so surprising to the defenders that, like, the moment they caught it, they couldn't even do anything. Yeah, they just fell down, and there's 3 picks, and all 3 could have been run back for touchdowns. All 3 of them.
Yeah.
Or at least big gains. And the only reason they weren't was because the guys caught it so awkwardly and then just fell on their faces, basically, because their balance was off. It was just, he's a good player. He'll win you a lot of games, but he'll also throw you out of some too.
C. Jenkins, 3-13. Texas is going to beat Oklahoma Saturday. Sooners will not be able to slow down Bijan Robinson, who looked really good. 30-something carries. I saw a stat. I believe Max Olson had this up on his Twitter feed that he had 9 carries in the 4th quarter. Bijan did 7 of them for first downs and 93 yards. And he's getting all sorts of awards coming to him this week as he earned. And they do look like they kind of got. They also forced a couple of key turnovers in that game. Wasn't easy, but Gary Patterson and right now TCU looking at up the hill right now with losses to open up Big 12 play. Well, open up the Big 12 play against Texas. They had lost to SMU the week before.
That'll be interesting to track because there's not a lot of defenses that let you run the football in the Big 12. We saw just one this past weekend with Oklahoma State. I think Oklahoma, their defense is keeping them in a lot of games, so they'll be ready to play, I'm sure. I do lean Texas just based on the momentum and the way both teams have looked at this point, but we'll see how the rest of the week progresses as far as feelings like that go. But yeah, he's a stud. There's no doubt about it. I don't know if they're going to plan on giving him 30 carries every game, but if that's the way to win, then that's the way to win. And I'm curious to see him against a West Virginia, against an Oklahoma State, against an Iowa State, and some of these defenses that are very stingy against the run. That won't be the case against Baylor because they give up rushing yards like it's candy on Halloween. But him against some of these other defenses, that'll be a fun watch, and there'll be some times where they're going to be forced into having to win other ways, and they got a lot of weapons, so it'll be interesting.
Here's and last year, remember they had that classic 4 overtime silly game at the Cotton Bowl. Guys, if we trade UT and Oklahoma today for Brigham Young and Cincy, the conference actually improves. This is from Eric. That makes the Baylor loss on Saturday a little more palatable. Eric in Lubbock. If you look at the rankings, he's right. Oklahoma's ranked right behind Cincinnati, and Brigham Young ranked slightly ahead of Texas as well. But
still, that's 2 teams that would be top 25 if they were in the Big 12 at this point in time, and that's what you hope for here in a couple years when they join the party officially. But yeah, that's great for them.
We're going to take calls. We got a couple of comments from today's Dave Aranda media session on a couple of questions. You could tell at the end of the game Saturday night they had the personal foul on linebacker Matt Jones that was just toxic. in what happened there. He was very upset about it. He's been upset about it. He's been talking about it. And he said it's going to cost us a game. They were lucky that some of that did not come back to haunt them against Iowa State. We'll hear from them. And also, what's it like the day after a game when they had that kind of game? The offense was just not good, and the defense was gashed at times. He discusses that with the coaches in the room. Timothy, how about the rankings? Paul, the boring number 3 ranked Iowa Hawkeyes. I wish my favorite team was boring.
I would give anything for boring. Armstrong can tell you because he's the only human being who witnessed it. But I was beside myself with joy because my favorite team beat Syracuse on a last-second field goal.
Yeah, I know. We both excited that we finally experienced it. That we don't need to talk about it. We talk about them too much, both of our teams.
But beating Syracuse is something you should celebrate in basketball.
No, in the tournament. Exactly, in the tournament.
Yeah, I was totally legit, and congrats on that with number 3 ranking. That's awesome to see them up there, see somebody different up there, and just hope they can hold on to it. I'd love to see some party crashers. I don't know that, Alabama and Georgia, they've almost got like an automatic berth already in the playoff, it feels like. But, as far as the best of the rest, Iowa's right there at the very top of that list and has an argument. And
obviously Penn State says, hey, don't forget about us. And Cincinnati said, hey, we're in the middle of this as well. All right, let's go to the calls. 254-339-1122. Our first guest, 345, Chip Towers of the Atlanta Journal-Constitution on Georgia. They're pounding of Arkansas and Auburn coming up this weekend. Paul?
All right, let's go to the BetUS caller line. We'll use promo code SICK'EM125 or SICK'EM200. And let's go to Owen from Virginia, who, Owen, I know that Saturday had to be tough to swallow as a Mountaineer fan.
Oh, you have no idea, Paul. Oh, you have no idea. I don't know what's up. Something's got to change. I like Neil Brown, and Daggy. It was all right, I guess. I don't know, but it was a tough Saturday. Losing to 3, we had no business losing to Texas Tech in Morgantown. A lot of disappointed fans, a lot of very upset and mad fans, rightfully so, in Morgantown Saturday. But one bright spot I think we can take away from this is that Green played good. He had that one series right there in the either in the second quarter or in the third quarter, and just drove him down the field. Now he made one mistake on 4th down and got scalded like a hot dog for it. But I don't know. At this point, I want to see more Green than Daggy. Daggy's making mistakes that a freshman quarterback is making, and he's a 5th-year quarterback. So. I don't know. I live and die by the sword of the Mountaineers. So I'm never going to stop pulling for them. But this one hurt, and it makes me nervous walking into Waco this upcoming week. So good luck to y'all. I hope we get the win, but yeah, makes me nervous, but yeah, I just wanted to kind of get y'all's take from it on Texas Tech and West Virginia.
Owen, thank you. I was stunned when I saw that score at 17-0. We said that in the pregame. Craig?
Yeah, I was stunned when the Red Raiders got up that big. I wasn't surprised that West Virginia came back and nearly won that game, and in fact felt like they were probably going to win that game, the way the momentum had gone. But yeah, it's the same thing every week, right? Like Jared Dagey, not every performance is bad, but there's not a lot that are great. And so, an average performance for him is considered good. And at this point, like you said, he's a 5th-year guy. You should be having better than good with a 5th-year quarterback. That should be an absolute strength for you, where you have teams like Baylor with Gary Bohannon or Texas with Casey Thompson, or whether it was Hudson Card. There's teams that are trying to break in these new quarterbacks. Having a guy who's been around should be an advantage for you. And he's not always the problem either. I think what was really interesting was Texas Tech early on was just taking what the West Virginia defense was giving them. They're just picking up yards. West Virginia was just kind of allowing them to do certain things, and Texas Tech took full advantage of that early on, and clearly some things changed. Like, that defense is always going to keep you in games, and the Red Raiders couldn't do much after that 17-0 score. They got adjusted on pretty well, but yeah, it's just not enough offensively. The defense can be as good as you want it to be, and it's pretty good. But all the adjustments in the world and this and that doesn't matter if you can't get that offense going consistently, and they are just completely inconsistent offensively.
How many times have you seen teams that have excellent defenses, but sometimes have games where they lose by 17 points not because I think anything they're doing wrong on defense, just because emotionally they know that if they give up 21, they're going to lose.
That was Baylor the last 2 years.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you have that. So you get exhausted, and you can't just knowing that you have to stop every drive. And there are other things. And unfortunately for West Virginia, sometimes great skill players or good skill players can trickle back to the quarterback and make them look better. But most of the time in football, it's the quarterback who makes everybody else around him better. And Daigie's just not good enough to do that. He's just not.
Well, again, it's a league that's completely flipped the script. It used to be you were hoping you had a defense to get 1 or 2 stops a half. Now you're just hoping you can score on occasion with the way the Big 12, for the most part, is being played.
I mean, here's another thing. Letty Brown's a good back, but if you can't run for 100 yards – in the Big 12, you're just not going to win a whole lot of football games. I don't care who you are. Like, you can't win if you don't rush for 100 yards. Baylor barely has scraped that over the last couple of weeks, and look at the way they've struggled with their offense, and I think that's for West Virginia as well. I mean, a lack of a running game consistently. So, yeah, some things to figure out offensively. I think West Virginia's got a shot to win this weekend because Baylor has proven to make enough mistakes on their own that they're going to allow sometimes some teams to be in the games. And just on paper, I think they're pretty evenly matched teams in terms of just talent level and things like that. So I'd expect Baylor to be chomping at the bit to get to practice today based on what we've heard from Aranda. For West Virginia, though, that's a couple losses in a row now. You're starting to hit the road. You got to go on the road the next 2 weeks. You got a hungry team in Baylor that's awaiting you, and I would say Baylor's got to be the slight favorite in this game. I mean, I would think so, at least based on watching both of them. So, yeah, they're in a little bit of a hole right now. I believe in Neil Brown. But, yeah, they're going to have to really get something going offensively somehow, some way to turn their fortunes.
All right, from Mountaineer tears to Bearcat joy, let's go to Tracy in Cincinnati. You're on the Bet US caller line.
Hey, thanks, guys. Cincinnati Bearcat swagger is on full today on this Monday.
Absolutely.
Hey, look at it right now. Hey, heavy. If we were in the Big 12 right now, we'd be the highest ranked team in the conference. With Oklahoma behind us. We played a hell of a game on Saturday. I was shocked by how dominant the defense was. And now my big concern now is Luke Fickell going to USC. I mean, USC plays Notre Dame every year. And you see that type of domination, I got to think that USC is heavy on the Luke Fickell line. And the only unfortunate thing that's going to happen is the strength of schedule. We may only have one ranked team left. So right now we're rooting for SMU to win out until October 30th so we can get another ranked team on the resume. And, we'll see what happens. But I just know how the big boys play. Everybody else behind us, 6 through 11, is either undefeated or one loss. And their strength of schedules are tough. So, unfortunately, I'm thinking we're probably going to make the Peach Bowl or probably the Fiesta Bowl. We're going to not end up in the top 4, and it's a damn shame.
Yeah, it will be. If, in fact, they do what they're expected to do. Now, don't go – I know that you feel good, and you should. That was a great win. It's a great win for Cincinnati Bearcat football. Luke Fickell, whoever else. Don't worry about the future. Worry about now. Take care of the business. Don't let something like all of a sudden, oh, my God, we lost to whoever – just take care of your business. You should absolutely soak this in as much as you can.
Yeah, I mean, and look, it's natural to start looking ahead too, though. Like after you win that game, it's natural to start, all right, now what do we have left here? There was those interesting comments apparently from Luke Fickell's wife. Did you guys see those about staying in Cincinnati and finishing the job there? And she had made mention that the article that I read that she was hoping that the Cincinnati, moving to a conference like the Big 12 and being in a Power 5 would, kind of be a sign of like, hey, there's something happening here. So, we'll see on that. But there's an article I saw earlier today, I think it was like USC and Luke Fickell drifting apart. So I don't know, like coaching rumors, they are what they are. So I don't know if that means that there is something to, USC and Luke Fickell maybe not being the next destination for both, which would be great news for Cincinnati fans. I mean, we experienced it with Matt Rule. When you have a good coach who is not at the biggest school and everybody's just assuming that the big offer comes, he's going to jump ship. And, it took him a few offers before he eventually did. He had some and didn't accept them all. We'll see if that's the case with Luke Fickell. But, yeah, man, you have every reason to be fired up. I do think for SMU, looking at them right now, I think there's a really good shot that they are going to be in the top 25 by the time that game rolls around because I don't see a lot of teams beating them. They've got Navy coming up, Tulane, at Houston, at Memphis, UCF.
Houston, they should keep going, but they're there's a couple of them in there they got to be careful.
No, I mean, they got to be careful, but they should beat Navy. They should beat Tulane. They should beat Houston. They should beat Memphis at this point, and they should beat UCF, in my opinion. So they should be undefeated. Whether they are or not, I don't know, because that is a long time away. That's nearly 2 months away from this point. But, yeah, man, get fired up. Enjoy Luke Fickell while you can, and don't worry too much about, the rumors out there and whether or not he's going to be gone after this year. Enjoy it while you can.
It'll drive you crazy.
Yeah,
it will. It absolutely will. Enjoy the moment, as they say. Paul, one more call. We got to take one more call. They got a couple of things to do.
All right, Chris. Oh, no. From the 305, we lost Chris. From the 305 in Miami, you're on the BetUS caller line. Thanks for your call. Who you got?
Hi, guys. I have a question, actually. In terms of my Hurricanes, actually, specifically, who should I be looking at in terms of replacement AD for Blake James and a head coach? Because realistically, I don't think Urban would want to come down to Miami, and I don't think we can convince Luke Fickell to come down here either. And realistic coaching choices and the athletic director, because I honestly rather have an experienced assistant athletic director who knows the college game than hiring someone from an NFL front office and stuff like that who doesn't know how to recruit in college and stuff like that. Doesn't know the college landscape that well.
Let me say this. Urban Meyer wishes he was about 10 feet under right now. He's having a pretty tough time, and it's getting worse.
I don't know. I think he probably would fit in right with the U based on what we're seeing. I think Uncle Luke would be more than happy to welcome Urban in that party to Miami. But no, even Uncle Luke is ready for Manny Diaz to be out based on what he said a couple of days ago. So when your big super fan's already chirping, then that's typically not a good sign. I have no idea, on an AD. I don't know names in that avenue like that. Maybe you guys can chime in there. But, I think it is about time to start beating the drums for the coaching search because that was ugly the other night. And, I know Manny Diaz has had some success as an assistant and whatnot in various places, but there's just something off there.
If I'm Miami, because they are a smaller school.
And they're young, too. I got to say, they are a young football team. I mean, they have talent, but still.
If I'm Miami, I'm going athletic director. And again, I don't know the names as much or the people who are the next ones. But I would look at, who are the schools that are really, really the big, gigantic schools who are really good, who's got an assistant AD that's ready to step up? That's who I would go get. Who's the assistant AD at Bama or Georgia or somewhere like that that's an athlete department that's rolling along? Go get them and bring them down. Because Miami is a sleeping – I don't know they're a sleeping giant, but they're a sleeping pretty darn big boy if you have everything running through the athletic department. They've got good donations. They're in a good spot to get donations because in Miami there's a lot of wealthy people around. And then as far as head coach goes – wait
a minute, but they had Rick, and now who they've been able to get guys that have been kind of ready.
And Rick is only retired because of his health. Yeah. So, they had to get Manny Diaz because Mark Richt can't coach anymore because he's got several different health problems. So,
but they went and got Manny Diaz, right?
They went and got Manny. Well, and he was going to Temple. That was maybe the mistake.
Yeah.
Maybe let him go to Temple first and then bring him to Miami.
See what he does.
But Miami's too big of a job to I think maybe take too many more chances on.
Is it really?
Or it has too much potential.
You're talking about Miami's too big of a job for someone to go down there and rebuild it?
No. It's too. You've got too much potential with that athletic department and with that football team to maybe take a chance on someone like Manny Diaz again.
But are they aligned from the top of that university, as we've discussed, and you've brought this up, is the president, the AD, and the football program, athletic department, are they all aligned in the same path?
The problem with Miami is, and I saw this the other day, a bunch of Miami writers tweeting about this, the president said, okay, we're going to start – looking at the athletic department, we've got a committee on that. Well, I think a lot of people in Miami feel like they don't have a president who's completely invested in the athletic department. And, for Miami football fans, the problem with the lion's share of Miami football fans is they're not alums. They're just from Miami.
No, yeah.
So they're not really giving them money. So then that president's not going to care about them as much as he does about people who are giving them money.
Yeah, and if you're Miami, the dream is Mario Cristobal, right? But they can't swing his contract at Oregon and buy that out and pay all that money. There didn't seem to be a way.
He would
for
just
that.
have to really want to be there.
Yeah, he would have to really want to be there. Yeah, exactly. And because Miami financially, I don't think it could do what it would take to be able to pull him away. So unless he has an interest in doing that, I mean, that would be your home run, right? Would be Mario Cristobal coming to Miami. But outside of that, I haven't seen a lot of names. It's kind of the typical like Billy Napier and anybody who's kind of ready for a step up. It would be your next wave of candidates. But, I mean, you got to have everything aligned like Paul was saying. And the fact that you mentioned the AD spot before even mentioning the head coach, I think that tells you that that's a problem that Miami's got to fix. So I don't have a lot of AD names for you, but I do like Paul's suggestion of maybe thinking outside the box.
All right, a lot more to get to. 254-339-1122. A couple of Dave Aranda comments on the loss in Stillwater 2 days later. Kind of some truth serum from him. There's a lot of people upset with many things because I guess everyone thought they were going to run the table, but that game was winnable, just like a few others might be down the road if they can tweak it and get it a little bit better. It's a week-to-week deal. This is Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports.
Bet with the 3-decade leader. Join now for 125% bonus on cash or 200% bonus with crypto using promo code SICKM125 or SICKM200. And bet sports with BetUS.com. You bet, you win, you get paid at BetUS, serving clients for over 25 plus years and prides themselves on being known as America's favorite sports book. They've got action on every sport across the world. So whether it's football, baseball, basketball, or cricket, they've got your game. And BetUS offers the industry's bigger retail bonuses to keep their players betting longer, like these promo codes right here, SICKM125 and SICKM200. Use them, SICKM125 and SICKM200 at BetUS.com.
Baylor University is where lights shine bright. So, let there be light. Let there be roommates and teammates, scholarship and championships. Let there be fresh starts and new traditions, fast friendships and lasting impacts. Let there be laughter. Let there be joy. Let there be light. Baylor University, where lights shine bright.
Boots add protection. Good boots help you climb better and move forward faster. And when your son or daughter steps into the boots of a U.S. Army officer, they also learn how to lead. In these boots, they'll gain more confidence with expert training in one of more than 150 occupational specialties. In these boots, they'll stand a little taller and lead a team with diverse backgrounds and areas of expertise to successfully accomplish whatever challenge comes next. In these boots, they'll earn respect with valuable experience from day one that will give them solid footing for success into the future. Highly qualified candidates who earn a spot on our team can receive comprehensive health care coverage, college tuition assistance, and a bonus of up to $40,000. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
How did Edward Jones become one of the biggest financial service companies in the world? By not acting that way. Financial strategies, one-on-one advice, it's a big difference. And that's why Brad Wilson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, makes sense of investing. Experience the difference for yourself. Brad Wilson, 250 Sharon Drive in Woodway, 254-776-4337. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
At Allen Samuels, we're proud to announce that Dodge is the #2 brand overall in new vehicle initial quality by J.D. Power. We've got amazing offers this month, so let our team help find the new 2021 Dodge vehicle that's right for you.
Come by. Let's be friends.
The secret to living your best life is pizza, obviously. Golden crust made from scratch, 3 fresh signature cheeses, and the toppings, crispy Old World pepperoni, savory Italian sausage, bacon. That's called a dream team. Find everything you need to live your best life and more at Marco's Pizza. Owner Bob Mock has been delivering pizza since 2001 and is the proud owner of 4 locations in Waco, Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and soon to be open in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street in Waco, is a hidden gem. They've got a great selection of spirits, wine, and the most extensive selection of craft beer in Waco in their gorgeous walk-in fridge. And they have an amazing array of high-end bourbons like Pinhook, Weller, Buffalo Trace, Brush Creek, Hotel, Garrison Brothers, Thomas S. Moore, Hooten Young, and Bardstown. Great customer service and a convenient and speedy drive-through window. Riverbend Liquor and Wine. Find out more on Facebook and Instagram. Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. Call us on the BetUS hotline, 254-339-1122.
Our good friend Timothy Vermeer is not happy that we're not giving the Hawkeyes enough love. They are really good. They hammered Maryland. That was the reason we did, and that was like 7 days ago, Tim. We did mention Iowa quite a bit in the pregame on Saturday, but they seem to be steamrolling as well, and they're picking out passes left and right. The defense doing what they do at Iowa, pounding the rock with Goodson and company as well.
I'm sure the TV executives will disagree, but I'd love to see Iowa in the playoff. I think they're a fun football team to watch, very sound all around, and yeah, they're not the typical Ohio State, Alabama, Clemson, and we're clearly not going to have a typical playoff the way things are kind of going or shaping up. Now, we might, by the end of it, it could be Alabama, Georgia, Oklahoma, so on and so forth, but there's Cincinnati, there's Iowa, there's teams that are making a racket early on, and I just hope they keep it up.
By the way, Luke Fickell, his wife, as a lot of you have put on the chat room, and we just had the call talking about how she is going to be the one that makes that decision. Yes, she will be. And if she wants to stay in Cincinnati, Ohio, guess what, Paul? Then Luke Fickell's going to probably end up staying in Cincinnati, Ohio.
She didn't rule out any move. She did, though, because I read the quotes. I mean, she did say everybody talks about football, and I think about, where am I raising my kids? Like, what town are we in? And I don't know that Los Angeles is for everybody when it comes to raising a family. So, she's going to have a say. Wives always will, and I think that's something that probably would work in Luke Fickell and Cincinnati's favor. That seems like a better spot to probably raise kids than some of the other options.
Bob Williams is thrilled. Auburn broke the streak in Baton Rouge. And Armstrong. And then we go to the calls. Armstrong, do you have the play by Bo Nix? I just happen to be watching this. My best friend Eric Horton is a huge War Eagle fan. Talked to him yesterday for just a little bit. The play by Auburn quarterback Bo Nix, they were trailing most of the game. Rolls to his right. All right, nothing there. Avoids. I'm thinking, you throw it out of bounds. Avoids.
His feet and then chucks it to the end zone for a touchdown to Tyler Fromm.
That was fourth down.
Yeah.
They were down 13-0. They come back to win. They break the streak. And Bob Williams, we did that because you sent us that beautiful artwork, the woodwork, with Sikkim 365 Radio.
Wait till you hear what David Helman has to say about Bo Nix. I asked him, because I asked him with the premise of, if you're a fan of another SEC team that has to play Auburn, Bo Nix is not Cam Newton. I mean, he's not winning them that kind of thing, but he is just annoying enough to get things done, and I bet they can't wait till he leaves.
I don't like when people always compare like a black quarterback to another dual-threat black quarterback and how we compare white quarterbacks to white quarterbacks, but he does have some Johnny Manziel to him. That's what it makes me think of, is it makes me think of some Johnny Manziel flavor. So, yeah, that was an incredible performance by Bo Nix. Huge win for Auburn, obviously, and just incredible plays time and time again. So, yeah, well done, Bo Nix.
All right, 254-339-1122. It is impossible for us to read all the chats because it's just going chit.
I did see one, and it was asking about Jim Knowles as a future head coach, I think.
Oklahoma State defensive coordinator's done an incredible job for them,
Yeah, I don't know. I've never really looked into like that kind of chatter in regards to Jim Knowles, but incredible defense he's put together there at Oklahoma State. On Saturday, there were some people, and I am not some X's and O's expert. I leave that to those who actually are. But, there was some scuttlebutt on Twitter during the game when Baylor's offense just kept slamming into a brick wall over and over again about the scheme that Oklahoma State was using and whether or not it had thrown off Baylor or it was something they were unprepared for or what have you. And based on the sounds of it, Dave Aranda, it sounded like their schemes were pretty solid. It was an execution thing more than anything else. And he made mention of how, they brought their safeties up, and they obviously didn't want to let Baylor run the football. And there's their safeties that are kind of creeping up. And then next thing you know, they're in the backfield or they're at the line of scrimmage. And he was clearly impressed by, just the attack of the Oklahoma State defense. They didn't budge much on Saturday night outside of 2 drives, really. And, he's definitely a good one, no doubt.
He's a hot coordinator. I was talking, someone's asking about the next coach here, next coach there. A lot of times you look for that Steve Sarkeesian type, the hot coordinator. And Knowles has done a great job. Oklahoma State has an off week, and then Texas in Austin following their game with Oklahoma, which should be a classic again. I would think, I don't know, I'm sure Oklahoma's favored because they're higher ranked, but I got to tell you, based on what I've seen between those two, I know Oklahoma's owned that now for a long, long time, but I would think that Oklahoma's going to have to show me a little bit for me to think they're favored to beat Texas in the Cotton Bowl on Saturday. All right, Paul, back to the calls.
All right, Chris in Missouri, thanks for your call on the BetUS caller line.
Hey, guys, wanted to say back on Friday, that Dan Russ interview and the guy with the numbers that followed him, you guys knocked it out of the park. That was tremendous. It does worry me a bit that the programs with smaller budgets, I don't know how they're going to do their risk reward going forward with the revenue sports. A couple years ago, Florida State made about $60 million, and they said that they had lost money for the year. If you're a Colorado State or you're, say, South Florida and you're getting $3 to $4 million, I don't know how that liability translates with the possible health care and lawsuits. It may be one of those ones where the small teams have to just drop the revenue sports and go with intramural to hedge that liability. But overall, I want to say thanks a lot. That Dan Russ interview was great, and keep doing a good job.
Thank you, man. We appreciate you. Every time you call, Chris, appreciate your call. On Sick on 365 Radio, 365 Sports.
Dan Lust and Tony Altimore right back to back there. That was some high, almost high science for us.
Highbrow.
Yeah.
And the thing is, and don't you forget this, what you saw from Tony Altimore in his presentation, he's been on the chat room with us, is something that the Big 12 had this big, huge, whatever it was. This is why they reacted so quickly. And now you know why they're looking at specific teams that perhaps before didn't make much sense. And what they are now, being aggressive rather than going, oh, my God, what do we do? What do we do?
Or the best part about it is if a team to you makes sense and then you haven't heard their name, it's in his presentation. Just go look at it, and he pretty much tells you why they should or should not add these teams.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think the presentation is still out there for anybody that wants to go through all that information. There's a lot of incredible information. And, as far as to your question, I mean, I don't see any other way for some of these smaller schools if things keep trending the way that they are. It's one thing with NIL is at least the school wasn't on the hook for that. They had to agree in most cases to these deals that were being cut, but they had a say in that, and it wasn't coming out of their pocket. If things changed the way that, this opinion that was put out there last week wants it to change, there are going to be some football programs and some other sports programs disappearing because there's going to be universities that just simply aren't going to be able to afford it. I mean, they're just not. You just can't do it. So, yeah, I mean, I hope it doesn't come to that. It won't affect the top-tier schools as much, but the little guys, where you see most of the people go and play, actually, that would be the levels that would probably be most immediately affected if this were to be enacted. Now, there's a long way to go until that, so no risk of, like, next year, SFA's got to close down their football program or something. But, in a few years, if that were to pass, then I think we would see some teams go to the side. And that's the kind of collateral damage or unforeseen consequences that I was really talking about last week is you got a lot of people with their hands in the cookie jar and a lot of people with money on their mind that aren't really worried about, the spirit of the sport and things like that. And they have some points because, look, the sport got away with being under amateurism and getting away with some stuff for a while that, it's starting to even out. But you got to be really cautious of the full swing the other way to where you're now – yeah, you're getting a little bit more for this guy and that guy, but for the large majority, you're putting them out of business, basically.
We got to do one. This is from Dave Aranda. Paul, I know we have a call. This is from Dave Aranda. This was at today's media presser. You could tell after the loss, he was pissed. He didn't say that, but he did. He was upset. There was the personal foul that really was critical against Matt Jones. It's not the first time. That really did give Oklahoma State that little extra when Baylor was trying to get the ball back. And I asked him, In fact, here's my question. Do you add the question to it, Paul, or not? Armstrong, is the question a part of this as well? No? No. Okay. I asked him, it does seem as if you were a little bit more edgy after the game, and I said this. Is it because it's time for some of your players to get take the diapers off and perform the way they should?
I'm very disappointed in just our competitive maturity. I think we're at a stage right now where something that we talk about and something that we give examples about and something that is very important, central to us, is not showing up. And so it's something that I take as a heavy blow. And it's something I'm very committed to improving. We've been talking quite a bit about how something like this is going to cost us a game, and it just did. And so I think, the locker room is very somber with that thought.
That's Dave Aranda. There's another one about what the coaches have to do when they get inside that film room and start watching it together. Like the film don't lie with players. It doesn't lie with the coaches either. A good comment from him a little bit later in the show today as well. Go ahead.
Do we have to go?
Yeah, we have to go. But go get 30 seconds.
All right, to the competitive maturity, I'm in full agreement with him. I think of all the things that came out of that game Saturday night, the offensive line didn't play very well. They couldn't run the football. There were some questionable play calls, I felt like, at times, and it was very clear that you can't run the football, and they tried to run the football anyways. I thought there was bad execution. The receivers didn't really help out in the passing game all that much, I felt like. There was a lack of physicality at times in making some of those catches. So I think you can point across the board at where it went wrong for Baylor against Oklahoma State, and you also have to point at the opposing sideline and say, hey, they've got a really good defense, and Spencer Sanders, made enough plays, and Jalen Warren's a heck of a running back who I would never want to have to try and tackle.
He ran so angry.
He ran hard. He ran really hard. But that competitive maturity, you can say all those things about Baylor. All of it's true. But the fact that they didn't show up looking ready to play on the road, top 25 team, that was by far the most disappointing thing to me. They looked like they just walked in like, hey, we're 4-0, and Oklahoma State popped them right in the mouth, and they out-physicaled them for the majority of that game. And that should not be the brand of football Baylor's playing, but that was on Saturday night, and it cost them. All right,
when we come back, we'll hear from Chip Towers. He covers Georgia for the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, 365 Sports. So, Ideal MRI, I've told you about them. They do an amazing job of two things: finding out what hurts you right now. What is it that perhaps in your knee, your ankle, it could be in the back of your leg, it could be your shoulder, it could be your elbow, or possibly even in your neck. You know what? It's painful. Shuts you down. Makes you want to take things you don't need to take. You're like, golly, and your doctors aren't real sure, but they think they know, but they want one big-time piece of evidence, an MRI. Ideal MRI in the Central Texas Marketplace, just off of 35 in the south part of Waco, on the Access Drive on Highway 6, Access Road. They can find it. They have state-of-the-art technology with their MRI machine. It's as good as anything you'll find. And $497 or less. Not once, not twice, all the time. $497 or less. The average MRI is $1,100, and so you do the math, and you also find out what is wrong with you. My two older brothers have gone through some prostate cancer, some bad stuff. And so my doctor said, hey, we want to check yours as well, even though my PSA levels are fine. So I had an MRI, an abdomen to check. Prostate's fine, no mass, no nothing. That's good to know. That's peace of mind. And they can do that for you as well. And it doesn't have to be something that's torn or ripped. IdealMRI.com.
At long last, it's time for some college football. Bird Collision Ford proudly supports the Baylor Bears as they take the field this season. Hi, I'm Mark Stewart with Bird Collision Ford. We have some great vehicles available this season as well, so come check out our winning lineup of new Fords. Let's cheer the Bears on to victory and celebrate by buying a new or pre-owned car, truck, or SUV. Visit us anytime at bkford.com. Buying made simple at BK Ford. Sic 'em Bears.
Do you or your kids get nervous about going to the dentist? Stonewood Dental. Dr. Steve Childress, he can help.
I've spent a career taking care of patients who as children had bad experiences, and now they're adults that hate going to the dentist. If I get a kid at 3 years old and they come every 6 months and it's a happy experience, it's normal for them. Now they have an accident at 6 or 7 or 8 at school. Now they have a broken tooth or a trauma, and they have to come here They're used to lights. They're used to water in their mouth. They're used to experience. They already trust us. It's amazing what we can do with that kid without it being a negative thing. But if I see a 6 or 7 or 8-year-old that's never been to the dentist, and now they have a trauma or an unfortunate unexpected toothache, it's harder to do that for that kid and it not be somewhat of a negative experience. So bottom line is I try to teach kids and adults and teenagers and everybody the way I'd want my family treated, which is where it's a necessary part of life. You just take care of it. It doesn't have to be that big a deal.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
It was broad daylight. I stepped into a gas station for 5 minutes to grab a snack, and just like that, my car was broken into. They made out like a bandit. My laptop, my phone, everything. I called my agent to see what could be done, and he restored my faith in humanity. My claim was processed so quickly, and I was able to recover my losses.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
It's time to fire up the grill, heat up the oven, or get that deep fryer going to enjoy the top quality products at Waco Custom Marketplace. Order 30-pound sacks of live crawfish by 6 on Wednesday. Pick up on Friday afternoon after 2 or Saturday. Enjoy the weekend. 30-pound sacks of live crawfish available right now for $4.25 a pound. Find all the crawfish boil ingredients you need, including red beef potatoes, sausage, corn cobettes, and Louisiana boil seasoning. Make your order for live crawfish by Wednesday at 6. Pick up on Friday after 2 or all day Saturday, and enjoy the weekend. Waco Custom Marketplace, your home for fresh baked kolache, cinnamon rolls every day. Butcher shop to cut your steaks the way you want. Fresh seafood, summer sausage, boudin, house cured and smoked bacon, spices, seasoning, soup mixes, and more, and weekly gift boxes for any occasion. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
This is Sikkim 365 Radio. Text us at 254-339-1122. The Sikkim 365 Radio text line is sponsored by Riverbend Liquor and Wine, with the most extensive variety of craft beer in Waco. A hidden gem on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street.
Chip Towers, Atlanta Journal-Constitution, Georgia. Football team just absolutely annihilated Arkansas. Auburn coming up this week. Chip Towers joins us on Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports. Chip, thanks for your time. We appreciate it. I don't think many people thought Arkansas would win that game, but I think people thought it would be somewhat competitive. Were you even shocked at how much of an avalanche destruction that was?
Yeah, a little bit, I guess. I mean, you never can tell, as you know, in college football, but, there's starting to be a little bit of a theme to Georgia's season. And if you just look at, everybody they've played, not many people have scored so far, and virtually nobody when you think about, South Carolina and UAB and Clemson for that matter. But South Carolina and UAB scored 7 and 13 points, and those came in the fourth quarter against a bunch of backups. So really, Georgia's starting defense hasn't given up anything all year. In fact, they've outscored opposing offenses. So it's like the old adage goes, even though it's very much an offensive game nowadays, the other team can't win if they don't score, and that's kind of what's going on right now.
Well, Chip, this is their toughest stretch at Auburn, Kentucky, who's off a big win over Florida, although neither of those offenses, and of course, and then off before the cocktail party, if they still call it that anymore. I don't know if they got rid of that title too. But all those offenses that they have coming up are struggling as well into the teeth of that defense. So Georgia fans should remain supremely confident, shouldn't they?
Well, yeah. I mean, so the schedule has always looked pretty favorable upon Georgia. I mean, if you go back and into the summer. And, we know a little bit differently about Clemson right now, but, that was a preseason game or first game of the season against the number 3 team in the country. But you knew as soon as Georgia got past that, the rest of September was going to be a cruise. And kind of all along, October looked like the month of distinction for them, and that actually, nobody was expecting Arkansas to come in here ranked number 8 as they did. Auburn's still a curious team to try to figure out. At this point, I don't think they're as strong as Auburn have been traditionally. And then right now, Kentucky is the only other undefeated team in the East at this time. Georgia, Florida, it will always be the world's largest outdoor cocktail party among the opposing fan bases. Now, the opposing schools won't allow that to be put on any T-shirts, and they've taken it away because of the mass of alcohol abuse that has been done in that particular area of the country for years now. But it's still the world's largest outdoor cocktail party, and it will be on October 30th when they kick off at 3:30 p.m.
Man, it just sounds like such a great party. Wish I could be there. Chip, what is the latest on JT Daniels' status headed into this week?
Well, he's practicing today. As long as you don't count the quarterback throwing the football is practice. That's what we learned from Kirby Smart today. He said that JT Daniels would practice, but he wouldn't throw. And that's kind of where it is. Look at, out there in Texas, you guys know all about strained lats, right? With the Dak Prescott and all that kind of stuff. So that's what he's got going on. I mean, this is the second sort of back muscle injury that Daniels has dealt with. He had an oblique, a strained oblique that surfaced after the Clemson game. He didn't play the next week against UAB, and Georgia won 56-7 anyway. And then the Vanderbilt game, he comes out and plays just one quarter, but Georgia led 35-0 after the first quarter, and we find out after that game that he was now dealing with a grade 1 lat sprain. So grade 1 is the lowest on that spectrum, and it's not as bad as what Dak Prescott had. And I think Georgia is definitely a better offense under JT Daniels, but they also have a pretty good fill-in in Stetson Bennett, who's a fifth-year senior and has played a lot of ball. And they're finding out because of this injury that they need to err on the side of caution. There's not a whole lot you can do but not play, but not throw, and that's what they're trying to do right now. So I would bet against him playing much, if at all, against Auburn on Saturday.
So we saw Georgia. In fact, that's the last time we spoke with you at the Sugar Bowl against Baylor, and obviously they were just better. Baylor was a hell of a story, but Georgia was able to grind on them pretty well, ran the ball what they wanted to do. Where is Georgia better now as far as – I know we've always known about their defense, and it's amazing, but where are they better than they have been in recent years?
Well, it's just a confluence of recruiting. I mean, if you look, every year except one since 2017, Georgia has finished first or second nationally in recruiting. So, look, some of those are hits and some of those are misses, but when you're recruiting at that level, you're stacking up a lot of talent. And so what's really happened for Georgia right now is they've gotten close to that place that Alabama has been for a while, in that one player goes out, you put another guy in, he's just as good. So that's what's going on. I mean, they had, everybody talks about it, and we all do in college football. What's the first thing you look at? Well, they lose so-and-so starters on offense, and they lose so-and-so starters on defense, and then you add it up. But what happens in the case of Alabama and Georgia and a few other select teams is you've kind of forgotten about those guys that didn't just get signed in the last class. It's the guys that have been redshirted and been working on special teams and in backup roles the past couple of years that are stepping up. Now, the defense, Georgia's always been good, but I've never seen a Georgia defense play the way this one is playing. The level of domination is the likes of which I haven't seen. Maybe going back to 1980 when Georgia won the national championship, but really that defense wasn't as dominant as it was opportunistic. They created a lot of big flashy turnovers and things like that. This one just doesn't let you breathe. They don't let you move a bit. And it's going to be really interesting against Arkansas over on the Plains, because if you saw Bo Nix against LSU, I mean, he was Houdini running all over the place. And that's kind of what's going to have to happen here, because I haven't seen anybody so far, and based on what I know about Auburn, I don't think they're going to be the ones. I haven't seen anybody be able to block Georgia's front seven. And so he's going to have to run around and make some crazy plays to make something happen. So that's the chief difference. And then, Georgia's got playmakers that even though they've endured a lot of injuries at the wide receiver position, they still have some pretty dynamic players out wide. You add that with the traditional Georgia running game, and here they are averaging whatever it is, 40-something points a game.
Not that it would hurt them too much, because Kirby Smart is still their head coach. But in the offseason, do you think it might be Dan Lanning's time to get a head coaching job?
Oh, gosh, listen, Dan Lanning, what a story when you think about, and I'm not sure I'm going to get this completely right, but this is generally right. I guess it was 5 years ago, he came here as an outside linebackers coach making $300,000 a year. He just got his latest raise at $1.7 million, and these are competitive raises. These are because other teams are offering him jobs. So yeah, it's just a matter of time before somebody snaps up Dan Lanning. Now, you got to understand, Kirby Smart's the guy that's his mentor, and Kirby Smart's telling him to hang on. Because if you remember when Kirby Smart was at Alabama, everybody in the world was always trying to hire him away as their defensive coordinator. But, Nick Saban kept telling him, hold off for a head coaching job. You don't need to go be a defensive coordinator somewhere else. You can do everything you need to do right here. Don't leave until you get the big job. That may happen with Dan Lanning too. I mean, he's 12 years old. I'm joking, but I mean, he's in his early 30s, and he's a really dynamic guy. If you ever get a chance to listen to him on the sidelines when he's talking, he's just like a savant, a defensive savant, the way he talks defensive concepts and stuff. So yeah, he'll get snatched up here before long for sure.
Chip, if you don't mind, one more story. Texas and Oklahoma play this weekend in Dallas. I'm sure game day will be there. It makes sense. They could also promote the upcoming editions in the next 2 or 3 years or whenever it is with the SEC. Has that talk kind of been now, has it died down now that the season has begun?
Yeah, it's finally quieting down a little bit. But I tell you what, there's an old saying around here, you couldn't have walked up and hit me in the back of the head with a 2x4 and me been any more surprised. And that was my initial reaction to it. Which is, I feel silly about it because I had a 45-minute sit-down interview with Greg Sankey the week before SEC Media Days this summer, and not once did I ask him something about expansion or rating the Big 12. And I'm still kicking myself about that. And then all this came out. But, obviously this is part of a much grander picture that, I think is eventually going to shake itself out in college football, whether it's a, 12-game playoff, 8-game playoff, 4 super conferences. I don't know what it's going to be, but this was obviously a huge domino to fall, and a good one for the SEC, and a not so good one for the Big 12. At the end of the day, college football is going to survive and win, and I think ultimately fans will too. It's going to be great to be able to see Texas and Georgia play, and Georgia and Oklahoma to play, more than once every 4 decades or whatever it is. So I'm excited about that aspect of it, but it is troublesome on so many different levels. And I don't know how in the world the powers that be are going to work it all out, but I know it will get worked out.
Thank you, Chip. Appreciate your time. Great stuff. Good to have. Hope you're feeling better.
Feeling a whole lot better. Yeah, almost back to myself. Thank you very much. Coming off the old COVID list myself.
Yeah, good for you, man. Glad, and thank you very much for being a part of the show, buddy. Thank you. Chip Towers, Atlanta Journal-Constitution, covers Georgia. We had him on back when Baylor played Georgia in the Sugar Bowl. Appreciate his time. All right, when we come back, we're going to come back with your calls. You text Also, the chat room blowing up. Here's a question. If we go to the break, we'll come back and answer it. How about the ACC? How does it play out? Their college football, well, we'll come back and discuss that. The Pac-12 in trouble after Oregon's loss. What three teams had the best win, and what three teams, and there's probably 6, who had the worst loss last weekend? This is 365 Sports and Sikkim 365 Radio.
Richard Carr Motors got some bad news for starters. Computer chip shortages have negatively affected all vehicle inventory worldwide. But the good news is General Motors has just announced they are restarting production and will release a steady flow of vehicles through the fall. Cars and trucks are coming, and now is the time to contact Richard Carr and get your name on a new Buick, GMC, or Cadillac as they are being shipped. Get your name on their first-in-line priority list, and you can get your car or truck first as they arrive. If you're looking for a pickup, well, get the best. Get a Sierra from Richard Carr. The ideal combination of power and strength with refinement and luxury makes Sierra the best truck on the road. If you want a roomy SUV, consider the Buick. The lineup of SUVs that Buick offers has size and versatility to fit every lifestyle. Or perhaps you're looking for a combo of sophistication and power. Well, the ultimate combo of sophistication and power is a new Cadillac XT6 or an Escalade. Cars and trucks are coming. Call or contact Richard Carr online with what you want and let Richard Carr get you on their first-in-line priority list today and get your vehicle before everyone else. And if you're looking to save and drive today, Richard Carr is loaded with premium pre-owned cars and trucks, all having gone through a 172-point inspection before hitting the lot. With dozens of lenders, Richard Carr says yes when others say no, and 100% credit approval is always the goal. So go online or come by the dealership for a test drive today. And for those in Central Texas, Richard Carr is your hometown dealership, so give them a chance to earn your business with great prices, free oil changes on new cars and trucks, and superior service after the sale. Richard Carr Motors, owned, operated, and run by loyal and proud Baylor Bears.
When it comes to me and my money, I know the way it should be. I need a partner I can count on. That's Genco and me.
Refinance your vehicle today at Genco with rates as low as 1.69% for 48 months and have 90 days of no payments. Refinancing can lower your payment, so you pay less for your car. Apply online and get an additional 0.1% off our already low rate. Thank you, Genco. And don't forget, your vote counts. Vote today for your local school to win $1,500 with Genco's School Spirit Competition. For more information, go to gencofcu.org.
Annual percentage rate subject to change without notice, subject to credit approval, membership eligibility, and loan policies. NCUA Equal Housing Lender.
They're people I trust. They treat me like family. My money, my future, my credit union. Genco.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be a part of the Waco community. We're a small family business right here in Central Texas, and our goal is to bring down the cost of healthcare while maintaining high quality. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important, and unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. That's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through the difficult time. We offer premium MRIs just like a hospital with state-of-the-art technology and specialists, but you'll pay less. Sometimes thousands of dollars less, whether you're using insurance or not. At Ideal MRI, we accept most insurance and there are no hidden costs, even offering financing if that's needed. Everything included in the price, and you'll not get something as a surprise in the mail later on. If you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. They'll know. You can schedule an appointment safely from home online in minutes at idealmri.com or give us a call, 833-IDEAL-MRI, idealmri.com.
In the market for a quality metal building? Since 1943, Pioneer Steel & Pipe has helped Central Texas residential and commercial customers with metal building design, panel options, building components, and trim options. Pioneer Steel & Pipe's residential line is energy efficient, offers low maintenance, reduces insurance payments, is impact resistant, and carries up to a 45-year limited warranty. In addition, they can also help you find a metal building contractor for your project. Pioneer Steel & Pipe with locations in Waco and Bryan and at pioneersboys.com.
Hey, this is Bryce Petty, former starting quarterback and two-time Big 12 champion, and I know firsthand the importance of being in top shape both on and off the field. So listen up, men. If you're feeling beat down day in and day out and looking for that high-performance edge that separates the men from the boys, then look no further than the Petty Clinic Low T in Waco. Petty Clinic is a comprehensive men's healthcare clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Board-certified Dr. Kent Petty has a special interest in offering the highest quality medical care to men of all ages. Some of the services offered include screening and treatment for low testosterone or thyroid, infertility, high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, sleep apnea, while offering comprehensive wellness exams and complete men's health lab panels. High performance men, remember, it's not just a Petty thing. This is Bryce Petty, encouraging you to reach out and Google search Petty Clinic Low T or go to pettycliniclowt.com and get your complimentary lab screening today.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
Sanders back, delivers, intercepted again. Number 22, J.T. Woods, a.k.a. the Heartbreak Kid, breaking hearts of quarterbacks around the country.
The 4 o'clock hour is sponsored by Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store, specializing in custom jewelry and repair, all in-house.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
All right, this 4 o'clock hour, we'll have Ricky Thompson, former Baylor wide receiver, played in the NFL with Washington. He is the sideline reporter. He's been with us quite a bit. J.J. Joe, former Baylor quarterback there with Baylor Radio, will join us later in the week. Cincinnati, we're going to have Chad Brendel on tomorrow on their huge win. Speaking of which, give me your 3 best wins on the text, chat, or call, 254-339-1122. But if you give us 3 teams, like in a sentence, why? Obviously, Cincinnati's one. Auburn is one. Who would be the 3rd best win this past weekend?
You know, I think that Georgia and Alabama probably don't get considered for this enough because they're just assumed to win. But I think, you know, you go and you just beat the hell out of a top 10 Arkansas team. You shut them out. I mean, they shut them out. When's the last time Kendall Browse got shut out? I'm sure it's probably happened at Arkansas. Maybe. I don't know. I haven't kept track, but can't imagine it's very – I know they're not winning with that style of play, though. They're not, like, airing it out and going up and down the field. But still, to see Arkansas put up a 0 was just a testament to how nasty Georgia is. And, you know, Alabama, that final score was a lot closer than that game actually was. But, yeah, those two are clearly the best. I mean, there were, several, I think, candidates.
How about Texas winning at TCU for the first time in 8 years?
That's one of my 3. I beat Cincinnati, Texas, and
Auburn.
Yeah, Auburn put themselves back in the conversation for maybe not the SEC title because there's clearly the delineation between Georgia and Alabama and everybody else. But yeah, Auburn, that was a fantastic win, especially they get knocked around early in that game. So.
Okay.
Arizona State's 4-1. They beat UCLA, who's top 25.
Yeah, UCLA, a fraud.
But the Sun Devils are 4-1 now, and that was a nice top 25 win.
Young, right?
Yeah, so they're in a nice spot there in a very wide open Pac-12 now that Oregon has taken their first loss. But yeah, there was a few candidates.
Yeah,
who are the worst losses?
Texas A&M to Mississippi State.
A&M is 0-2, and they have Alabama Saturday night at Kyle Field.
Yeah.
Florida lost to Kentucky. LSU lost to Auburn. Oregon lost to Arizona State. And I wouldn't call Notre Dame.
They lost to Stanford.
I'm sorry. Notre Dame losing to Cincinnati because, hey, they've looked good. Just hammered Wisconsin, right, with that big blitzkrieg in the 4th quarter. That has to be a bad loss for them as well. All right, 254-339-1122. The chat room is going crazy. A lot of people talking Texas and Oklahoma, recruiting and much more. And 254-339-1122. Here's a question for us. The ACC, are they going to get in the college playoff? Can they? No. All right, what about the Pac-12 now?
Probably not.
There's an outside shot for them still. I mean, even though Oregon took that loss, I think they still have a breath, but it's not much of one.
I don't think – and Wake Forest is a good team. They play very fundamental football. They're tough. They're kind of like Iowa where they're just going to knock your – in the dirt. I mean, that's what they're going to do. I just don't think anybody thinks they're going to go undefeated. That's what Wake Forest would have to do to get in the playoffs.
They would have to run the table and somehow – who is on their schedule that they've beaten?
Well, nobody yet. I mean, and again, they'd have
So they're going to battle the logo.
Yeah.
Am I right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They've beaten Old Dominion, Norfolk, Florida State, Virginia, and Louisville.
Yeah.
So none of those teams are going to get you. And that's
Louisville.
Baylor's been there when they ran the table and actually beat some logos, but still it was like, yeah, but look at their non-conference schedule. So Wake Forest, unfortunately, is going to have to deal with that. But good for them for what they've done so far.
I mean, Malik Cunningham was getting Heisman hype, and they just got a win over them. So I think that was a pretty salty win for Wake Forest. But yeah, I mean, not a lot of hope that it's going to continue the rest of the way for sure. And looking at, I mean, you need to look at their schedule too. I mean, let me look at Wake Forest real quick.
While you're doing that, this is from the 8. Go ahead. Okay. If you got it.
At Syracuse, that could be a win. Yeah. At Army, Duke, at North Carolina, number 23 NC State, which who knows if they're still top 25, at Clemson, at BC. So
yeah,
probably not.
And then whoever they play if they get to the ACC championship game. Worst losses, the 8-1-7, Fresno State. They got knocked out by Hawaii in a last-second loss. Oregon, Florida, and the best wins, Cincy, Georgia, and Alabama, which sometimes, because Georgia and Alabama are so powerful, sometimes you don't put them down, like you said, Craig, as the best wins. All right, light them up, Paul.
Let's go to ACC country in Jordan, talking Pitt Panthers. You're on the Bet US caller line. Thanks for your call.
Hey, guys, thanks for having me on. How are you guys doing today?
Doing great.
Yeah, so there's one thing I would like to talk about that I think is being way overshadowed, and I think it's highly disrespectful, is the fact that Kenny Pickett is not in the Heisman race. 20 touchdowns, 1 interception, 1,738 yards.
Yeah, I think those are good numbers. I think, Jordan, I think you've hit on some good numbers there.
I mean, we could make it even worse. Our wide receiver, Jordan Addison, 29 catches, 542 yards, 11 touchdowns.
Yeah, Pitt's got some players. I mean, they do. And Kenny Pickett, I mean, I've seen his stats week after week, and it's been impressive to see. I mean, the lack of incompletions. I mean, that completion percentage rate is pretty remarkable given how often he's throwing the pigskin around. But, yeah, I mean, he's been unbelievable for them. I think that Pitt's just a brand where a lot of people are probably hesitant to pour in their full faith and say, like,
they lost to Western Michigan, and they're 4-1. But you get into that ACC, look, if it's Pitt and Wake Forest in the title game, that's what we're looking at right now.
We're looking at ACC, leaders jumping out of windows. If that's the title game too, like that would be a nightmare. But no, I mean, I think that there's probably some hesitancy. The fact that they're not unbeaten obviously hurts, and who they lost to, that's going to ding you if you're a Heisman candidate. But no, I will agree with you on this. He certainly deserves more love than he's receiving right now. He deserves more attention for the numbers that he's putting up. And for whatever reason, the couple of examples I gave of just not believing just yet because of the brand or whatever the case may be, why there's hesitancy there, he does deserve more love.
Guys like that just are almost now, like RG3 in 2011, who came completely out of nowhere. And even with 2 bad losses to A&M and Oklahoma State, still won the Heisman Trophy. It's very rare now, but it does seem like the Heisman Trophy winners do kind of, Johnny Manziel, they're there next year, kind of come out of nowhere. From the 2-5-6, the best wins, Auburn, historical win. Kentucky, historical win. Cincinnati says itself. 6 losses, the worst. Oregon, Army, they got beat. LSU, UCF, they lost. Missouri and Florida.
Missouri got handled by Josh Heupel, yeah.
UCF, they've kind of skidded a little bit.
Yep.
I mean, they have there with Gus Malzahn.
Hey, we will kick you right back out of the conference if you're not just kidding. You're kidding.
But no, yeah, I think all those are notable teams to mention for sure with losses this weekend.
Here's another one from the 2-5-6, and we can debate this and go back to the calls. Is Ed Orgeron and his mulligans of losing, and they got beat by Auburn for the first time. I think is it 99 or whatever it is at home. Is he maybe on thin ice? You kind of feel that, don't you? Just won the national title, 2 or 3 years ago. You feel that.
But look, it depends. To me, I think the scandal and how much it tilts negatively towards him out of his favor.
You mean the one that no one's talking about?
But that's still there. They're still going to have to deal with it and reckon with it internally. If that continues to get, nobody's talking about it. But the sexual assault scandal that's going on at LSU, that and coupled with the fact that things have just not gone well. They could lose. Their toughest part of their schedule is now. I mean, you look at who they got coming up, nothing's going to be easy, so they're going to be lucky to go 500 on the way out.
I mean, there's a lot of LSU fans that want him gone. I mean, I saw plenty over the weekend that are just, happy about what happened 2 years ago, but at the same time feel like the direction of the program is not exactly going uphill. It's going backwards. And so I think some of it's the stuff off the field that's just kind of lingering, although it's not being – there's no outside the lines anymore, right? So they don't have a daily special on the LSU allegations the way they did on Baylor for about 6 months straight.
Or 2 years, 3 years.
But really, more of years counting that. But, I think, I think LSU's got some thinking to do. I mean, at the very least, they've got to kind of scan around and go, okay, especially with Oklahoma and Texas coming in a couple of years as well. I mean, that's not going to influence who you are going to hire as a head coach, but you have to be mindful of the competition that's coming at the same time, and you can't really afford to hang on to Ed Orgeron for another year or two and just kind of struggle on along, and then here comes the new guys, and you're just, you're bottomed out or whatever. So, yeah, it's a curious position because he just won a title, but there is enough negativity out there swirling from the performance to the off-the-field stuff that – LSU could make a call like that, and people would probably be taken aback in some ways, but I think a lot of people would be like, yeah, okay, I get it as well.
Alabama plays at A&M on Saturday. The Aggies are now 3-2. They're about to be 3-3. They are a couple of bad performances against the wrong teams away from finishing under 500.
They are. They've got to they need Mr. Miyagi to come in and heal Haynes King's leg in a hurry because Zach Calzada is lost out there, and the offensive line's not good either. So those two things, kind of combined.
And again, the quarterback injury can change a lot of things. But,
we don't know what Haynes King would have done either. Yeah. I mean, that's the thing.
No,
it's
you're
like
right.
he could be way better than Zach Calzada. He's obviously better enough to win the job. But if your offensive line still isn't fantastic, that's going to have an impact on whoever's back there. But yeah, you'd like to have him in the running for sure because Calzada has been shaky.
Well, they just don't have an option. It's Calzada out there to die right now, and he's just between the ears is kind of messed up. He's got some talent. He's got an arm. I'm sure if they moved him over to Jim Schlossnagle's team, he'd be on the mound throwing about 98. But it's not the case.
For A&M though, it's disappointing. There's no doubt about it. I haven't really delved into how Aggies fans are feeling. I saw Billy Liucci make some comments after the game on Saturday. He's going back and forth with UT fans and whatnot. I think there's still, optimism for that team moving forward. But, they've already had their grand hopes dashed, and it's, 1 month into the season. So, disappointing so far, definitely.
Hey, he's making a ton of money, Jimbo Fisher, and I still don't understand why they gave him more before the year began. Is the winner of Penn State, Iowa, considered a threat to Bama and Georgia? There's still more games to be played, but that's one of the games that should get tremendous attention this weekend as well.
Probably a bit of an offensive gap there. All right, let's go to the phones. Armstrong going to have to put up the shot clock.
Yeah, shot clock, so make it quick. We appreciate
got 4 calls. Let's go to Johnston in Manhattan, Kansas. You're on the BetUS caller line.
Hey, how are you guys doing? This is actually John.
I'm sorry.
Here to call. All good, no worries. This is a little bit under the radar, but Michigan looked really good from what I saw on Saturday. Coming into Madison, the jump house, they looked really good. I think Jim Harbaugh has really something going. He's really up rising to stakes in Ann Arbor for sure.
I agree, and they play Nebraska this weekend, who finally won a game under Scott Frost against Northwestern, who's undermanned. But I agree. I think Michigan is quietly now, again, they got a long way to go, but they have quietly steadied the ship a little bit, and good for them. It's something that people have been waiting for, but are they going to be able to continue and sustain that? That remains to be seen.
Why didn't you mention Nebraska with the most impressive wins this weekend?
Because I still don't believe they actually won the game.
Yeah, they're better than their record shows.
Yeah. No, they are. The Illinois and Michigan State games are going to cost them a bowl game most likely, but they are.
You know what I think they need, honestly, because they're getting better? They need Taylor Martinez to just go on.
Adrian.
Taylor was the good one.
He was the fast one. Yeah,
Adrian
funny throwing motion.
Adrian Martinez to to move on to his next event in life, and then just
he is why they're winning, though.
But he's also
why they're
just
losing.
a disaster.
He's right,
like Spencer Sanders in a way.
He's Spencer Sanders with more talent.
I do think Michigan is a team to be mindful of. You know, they were a little feistier on offense than we've typically seen them accustomed to being, and I liked what I saw on Saturday. I definitely think they're a team that's in the mix. You know, everybody's kind of waiting for the Ohio State shoe to drop probably, and ultimately. But, I mean, if there was a year to jump up and grab them finally, it seems like this would be a good year for Michigan to do it.
Yeah. All right, Jeff in Mexico.
All right, roll Tide.
Roll Tide, guys. Hey, I got 3 real fast points to make. First, the best win this weekend, being a Marine, has to be Navy upsetting UCF. 2, Jimbo Fisher said that if you give him an extra $2 million, he'll win at least 10 games next year. And the main reason I called in is this is the year we need a 12-team playoff, because there's not really that dominant of teams. Everybody has struggled at least once. So if you had 12 teams, this would be a really good, interesting year. That's all I got.
Thanks, Jeff. And good luck, by the way, with what you're doing with it with your inside your family. We appreciate that, man.
Yeah, that was a nice win for Navy, for the midshipmen, and like I said earlier, UCF's struggling now. Kind of flirting.
Dylan Gabriel's hurt. Yeah.
Yeah, well, and that's a big part of why too. But yeah, UCF's been a little bit of a letdown. Nice knock on Jimbo, and more than fair, quite honestly. And you know what? He probably will get a pay raise no matter what their final record is. And a 12-team playoff, I think it's clear there's 2 teams and then everybody else. So I'd like to see a playoff with everybody not named Alabama and Georgia, because I think that would really be the most competitive playoff. But, yeah, a 12-team playoff would be really intriguing this year given the landscape.
All right, let's go to Steven in Virginia. Thanks for your call.
Hey, guys, I wanted to say I didn't hate the play calling that much. I thought if you look at the numbers, even if you take out the 55-yard rush, Abram Smith still averaged 4.7 yards a carry, which is more than almost everybody else, including that great back for Oklahoma State. So I really didn't have a problem with them running it on 3rd down, because at that moment I thought we were going to go for it on 4th down. Usually if you're going to go for it on 4th down, you run it on 3rd down. And I'm really confident. You know, I feel like the worst that could happen is Baylor loses to BYU, Oklahoma, and Texas, and they go 8-4 down the stretch. So I'm feeling good. There's no reason to burn it down. I'd love to hear what y'all think.
8-4 to me is a nice step. I know a lot of people maybe got out of whack because they started the way they did and beat Iowa State. I would take 8-4, but that means you're going 4-4. You're going 3-4 the rest. No. 4-3 the rest of the way. Oh, okay, because of who you have.
You win 6 more games a year after, like if you win
agree.
6, I mean, I don't give a damn who it is. You win 6 more games than you did the year before, then that would be, 6 more games. That'd be an incredible jump back. 8-4 would be great, considering, the start and that loss to Oklahoma State. I mean, I can see where that would be somewhat disappointing given, you're 4-0 and then you'd be 4-1, and then that means you're going, 4-3 the rest of the way. But, I mean, if you look at the schedule, that's about what I'd probably have them going. I mean, that's about what the expectation should be. I think in the heat of the moment on Saturday night, you could look at play calling, and I think everybody was going why are they not throwing the football? Why are they not throwing the football? But, listening to Aranda afterwards and listening to him today, I mean, they just didn't execute. They just simply didn't execute. And I'll go back to the competitive maturity thing. That did not look like a team that was ready to show up and be physical and play another top 25 team.
Oklahoma State took their running back, Warren, and beat them, broke their jaw.
He smashed him. 3.7 yards a carry is not great, but when you give him the ball 35 times,
it was. I'm telling you, it was
key moments.
Baylor
too.
Defense was on its heels.
Yep.
It was on its heels quite a bit. They had turnovers that made up for drives. Like, that's the thing. The defense didn't even play stupendous either. They just got interceptions that cut off points. But outside of that, you can look at a lot of Oklahoma State drives where they ran it right at Baylor's throat. And Jaylen Warren just pounded on him. But, yeah, my faith in Aranda is not shaken by any means.
Not at all.
They were going to lose at some point or another, and you learned from that one on Saturday.
Right. From Donnie Hand, he's the one that brought up Warren as damn beast. He runs angry,
man.
Like he's got nothing left in his life but to run over and through people.
He runs so hard.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. All right. Shot clock is on. This is the last caller before we go to our next segment at Ricky Thompson. Howard in Oregon. Thanks for your call.
Hey, how you guys doing?
Great.
Good.
All right. USC job. I hardly ever hear this guy's name mentioned, and I've been thinking about it for a long, long time. And he was the quarterback, in my opinion, of the toughest Pac team of the modern era. It had Ocho Cinco on it, Hushman Zana, and Kenny Simonton. Who am I talking about?
That's not Achilles Smith, is it? No.
No, it's Jonathan Smith, the coach of the Beavers. That guy has taken that team, and they're leading in a lot of categories, and they're number one in the Pac-12 North. And he's taken that team from just kind of nothing, and they're playing tough football. Best game, Oregon State win over Washington at Reser.
All right, Howard.
Oregon State, that was impressive. And they're right now, they're playing at a high level. I mean, I know sometimes you overlook them a little bit because it's Oregon State. It's unfortunate we do that.
It's because they play at 2 o'clock in the morning on Saturday night. I mean, that's why you never hear talk about Oregon State, is because that Pac-12 schedule, you never see them play unless you're like me and you're a night owl or a college football junkie. But, yeah, that was a nice win. I mean, talk about most disappointing teams or most let-down seasons. I mean, Washington's got to be up there.
Yeah,
they have to be up there.
They've almost just kind of evaporated for whatever reason.
Yeah, for Oregon State, I don't know a ton about like all of their personnel, but I do know that I love seeing the stat lines for B.J. Baylor, their running back from Texas. He's been putting up some good numbers, and his last name's Baylor, which is kind of weird. But
so is the Brigham Young quarterback. Baylor Romney, I think.
There's Baylor Romney, yeah. But, B.J. Baylor's a good little player for them. I think he's actually going to be on the Earl list this week as an honorable mention again. But, good win for Oregon State, no doubt. Tough season for the Washington Huskies.
When we come back, we'll break down a little bit more what happened with Baylor in Stillwater when Oklahoma State punched him in the mouth in the first half, and they still had a chance but could not make it happen. Ricky Thompson was there, right there on the sideline, and he's next on Sikkim 365 Radio and also 365 Sports. The city of Woodway, coming up, not this week, but next week, is going to have an Oktoberfest concert series. If you want to get involved in that, you can go to discoverwoodway.com. And Jesse Reed is the contact, and we're going to possibly have a table of 6 to give away for that comes up. It's Oktoberfest. It's, I think, the Thursday the 14th. So go to Discover Woodway. If you want to make sure you get to go, you can go online and buy tickets for that. They continue with a lot of the youth, anywhere from 5 to 11-year-old type of sports and events and athletic type clinics, from sand volleyball to flag football and much, much more. And because Baylor, in the next month, home against West Virginia Saturday morning, home against Brigham Young 2:30 Saturday the following week, off week, and home against Texas. To end October, 3 home games in the next 4 weeks. You need a hotel, go to discoverwoodway.com. They have 7 hotels with very close to Baylor campus. And even if you're not coming in for football and you want to go see Magnolia, the Silos, or go to Balcones and enjoy their great whiskey, if you want to just enjoy the changes in downtown Waco that have been spectacular and a Baylor football game, go to discoverwoodway.com.
The 2021 Ram brand just received first place in the prestigious J.D. Power's initial quality study. The Dodge brand finished second to Ram, and the 2021 Jeep Gladiator is first among all midsize trucks. Quality and Ram Power Days, only at Allen Samuels, 201 West Loop 340 in Waco.
Come by, let's be friends.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Ben Erlinson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Ben Erlinson, 100 North 6th Street in Waco, 254-759-8533. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Baylor Scott and White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, hand or wrist injuries, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trusts. Baylor Scott and White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible and rewarding challenge. Hi, this is Dan Ingham with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like our free First mobile app, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. That's the First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
1, 2.
I'm in love with a man named Rudy. I'm okay with that. He knows exactly what I want. He keeps me coming back. Cooks breakfast, lunch, and dinner for me. Does the dishes too. I'm in love with a man named Rudy. Last name Barbecue. It sure is easy to fall in love with Rudy's tasty oak smoked barbecue.
Next in line.
Boozers is the wedding ring store and more. If you're ready to get engaged or already married and want to upgrade your wife's ring for a special anniversary, Boozers is the place to go. With the largest selection of premier quality diamond engagement rings and wedding rings in Central Texas. They have 7 cases with over 300 styles of rings from top designers like Natalie Kay. Choose from yellow, white, or rose gold, plus beautiful top quality loose diamonds. With an in-house jewelry, they can also custom make anything you want. Bring in a picture or drawing and let Boozers create your one-of-a-kind pendant or ring. They can even use some of your old gold and diamond jewelry to create something new. At Boozers, you'll find a great selection of quality timepieces, and Boozers is the place for expert watch maintenance and repairs too. They specialize in expert Rolex watch repair for fine jewelry, watches, custom work, and more. Go to Boozers on Valley Mills and Lake Air Drive in Waco.
Boozers, the wedding ring store and more.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. Are you a Sikkim 365 superfan? Then try out our premium subscriptions at Sikkim365.com.
All right, we will hear from Ricky Thompson here momentarily. Ricky, former Baylor wide receiver, played with the Redskins, Washington football team back in the day, also the sideline reporter for Baylor Radio. By the way, these Baylor segments brought to you by Richard Carr Buick GMC Cadillac. And we'll have J.J. Joe later in the week. Plus, we heard from Dave Aranda. Craig, we wait for Ricky. You saw and you heard kind of the edge in Aranda even after Saturday, and you could hear that again today. I loved it because you always think of him, he's kind of quiet. He's not going to get – he is, I think, fed up. He's not going to ever, get in, in Matt Jones. He even said this about Matt Jones. It's unacceptable. I think he's to the point now. He's played good cop, and now he wants his football team to get their damn job done.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if he's to that point of frustration. I mean, it's one loss. It's one single loss, and I don't know how many people had them pegged at 5-0. I mean, maybe some did, but I think there were also probably others that had them at 3-2 at this point, and here they are at 4-1. Everything's still in front of them. Shocker, they're not going to go unbeaten this year. I mean, but when has that ever been the case? So, no, I mean, he does have an edge about him. Dave Aranda's not somebody I would mess with. I think, the quiet guys are kind of the scary guys sometimes, right? But he's been very vocal, and he's been very upfront about where they have misstepped or where they've been misguided, and I fully expect a much cleaner, tougher playing football team this weekend.
Well, I think the part is not losing the game. Of course, you don't want to lose the game. I think it's he's frustrated because he's been preaching that we're going to beat ourselves. And absolutely imagine where they would be in a free fall had they not cleaned it up and found a way to still beat Iowa State despite some boneheaded things that they did. For example, even Jalen Petrie, who admitted he's running on the field. I mean, they're only up 2 now.
No, look, they had too many men on the field, penalties multiple times.
Offsides on an onside kick.
No, it was an ugly, ugly game, and they need to clean that up in a major way. So, yeah, I'm sure there is a level of frustration there, especially when you've been saying, hey, we're going to beat ourselves, and then you went out there on Saturday night, and all credit to Oklahoma State, but in many ways, Baylor beat themselves. So, yeah, I would imagine he's frustrated.
Yeah, that game was there for the taking, although Oklahoma State's defense was smothering them and not letting them. And part of the thing was, I know people were saying, why don't they throw? Why don't they do this here? The way the wide zone offense works is everything works off the run and the run being successful. And since they were able to stop the run, a lot of their pass action just wasn't going to work. So,
well, it could have if, Tyquan Thornton gets tough and catches a football.
Yeah.
If R.J. Sneed actually dressed out for that game, did he? Yes. But would you have known it? No, you wouldn't have because he didn't catch a single football. R.J. Sneed didn't catch a football on Saturday night. On the road against the top 25 team. He's your best receiver.
Yeah.
That's unacceptable.
Yep.
And so for whatever reason that was occurring, that has to change somehow or another. Drew Estrada was a bright spot, but he was like their only bright spot at wide receiver on Saturday. He was the only guy that did anything, really. And, the running game finally clicked there late. But, yeah, there's a lot of missteps. There's a lot of things that they did to hurt themselves. And, just some of the stuff is going to be a result of what Oklahoma State does. Some of it's just going to be you didn't play all that well. But, like, too many men on the field, not getting play calls in, stuff like that. Like that's on the coaches, that's on everybody, and that's where they really were a mess on Saturday night.
And here's the problem: it's not the first time they've had 12 men on the field. It's not the first time they've had the play clock running out, and at times it's going to happen. That's why, in fact, Armstrong, do you have the second comment that I sent, or Paul, that you sent him about the coaching staff? Now, everyone wants to put their head in a deep fryer right now, and then what's going on? Jeff Grimes was a genius for 4 games, and then all of a sudden people think, what the hell is he doing, or why did they go for it on 4th down? And I want to get to that as well, because a lot of people you can't do that. They didn't give up any points on that. The only thing they did maybe give up was possibly some field position, but they still ended up not giving up points.
They definitely gave up field position because they had to drive the length of the field with an offense that couldn't do anything.
A lot of people have defended the 4th down, and that's fine. There's no right answer, wrong answer, but you punt there. Your defense then holds. Maybe you get the ball back and better, but still, so the coaches, you hear about film don't lie, right? Players have to look at evidence. It's like forensics. Well, the coaches do too. And I asked Dave Aranda about how that went on Sunday.
Competitive maturity to me would be to be your best authentic self in the most competitive and pressurized situations, which, I feel ashamed to say that is really what we want to be about. And so for us to not be that is a dig, And so I think I can point back to our game versus Kansas where I thought there was opportunities to do stuff after the snap or after a play, and we were able to not do that. And you go back and the score of the game and the flow and the rhythm of the game was not anything to where there was you were feeling pressure or any of that. And so you get to a spot where when things are good, things are good. When things are bad, they're bad. And so I think we have to be our best when things are in tough spots. And so we'll continue to work on it.
All right, so that actually was Dave Aranda following the Oklahoma State game, talking about the Matt Jones penalty and about competitive maturity. And he went and kind of doubled back down on that again today, that when you have things happening, when there's chaos around you or things are going like either too good or too bad or there's a big moment, you have to have the ability to somehow slow it down and not get too caught up in the moment one way or the other. And that's what happened. And that's what happened. Almost cost him the game against Iowa State. Not to mention it hurt him. I don't know if that lost the game against Oklahoma State, but it damn sure put you in a position where you couldn't win it.
With the Matt Jones penalty?
Yeah,
I think it did.
Yeah.
I think it did. I think it was the final nail in the coffin. I think there was a little bit of hope. I mean, maybe a small amount of hope after that, but that was pretty much, to me, the game right there. That just
that ended it. Yeah,
that was the game.
Yeah.
That's what you were asking, right?
Yeah,
that was the game. So, I mean, you had a few seconds after that or whatever, but I mean that was it. So, can't do it. I mean, just can't do it. I saw some people kick him off the team and things like that, and I don't think that's going to be the case. People have very extreme reactions in the heat of the moment, but it will be a difficult learning lesson for Matt Jones, that's for sure. That's going to be a tough film to watch. It's going to be a tough film for the entire team to watch because I think they're going to see opportunity after opportunity after opportunity that was out there that they just fully didn't take advantage of. Or, like, for example, when they're running into the line over and over again, it's easy to say that Jeff Grimes is calling crappy plays. But if you look at the film and there's one block that wasn't made, and that's why they didn't spring for a 20-yarder, that wasn't the play call then. That was the execution. And I think the execution was probably not the first thing that people thought of on Saturday night. They thought, like, oh, it's the play calls. But in hindsight and in listening to Aranda, it seems to me like it wasn't so much schematically what they were trying to do. It sounded like there were openings there, but they just couldn't make plays, and they couldn't do their jobs often enough to execute those plays. They had opportunities. And, he even said that some of the design, you get Abram Smith or Treston Ebner out in the open field against one of their safeties, and you like that matchup, but they just could never put themselves in that position, really. So got to clean it up, got to be better, got to play better, bottom line.
Okay, I was trying to see. Nope, this is not. I thought it was Ricky calling me back. Oh, we'll try to see if we can track down Ricky Thompson. Break here, Paul?
Yeah, and then maybe we can pull that
all right.
bite.
One of the things about Baylor is even had they, in fact, if they had stopped Oklahoma State with that Matt Jones, the offense, they had the long run by Abram Smith, but nothing else really. So we don't know what they would have done or been able to move the football. When we come back, we'll see if we can get Ricky Thompson. We'll hear from Dave Aranda, one more comment from earlier today. And this is Sikkim 365 Radio. PettyClinicalOT.com. Dr. Kent Petty can help you become the high-performance man that you need to be. Maybe used to be as you get older. Testosterone levels can drop inside your body. Testosterone levels can create energy. They can create better sex drive. They can create a lot of things. But as you get older, 1 out of every 3 men have symptomatic issues when it comes to low testosterone. What does that mean? You may not sleep as well. You may lose the energy you seem to always have. And then also your sex drive can change as well. Now, a lot of that also might be what you eat. Do you sleep enough in the first place? And also, do you exercise, or just are you happy? But 1 out of every 3 men have symptomatic issues of low testosterone, and Dr. Kent Petty can help you. PettyClinicalOT.com, top left-hand corner, email and a phone number. Contact them. Tell them I sent you. Tell them Smokey sent you. They'll set you up with get lab work, blood work, get the results. If your testosterone is too low, Dr. Kent Petty and his staff will put you in a program to help you gain your testosterone levels back to where they need to be so you can become the high-performance man that you want to be at PettyClinicalOT.com.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness continues to add more weapons to your getting or staying in shape arsenal with 8 brand new treadmills ready for you to run or walk a mile or 2 or 10. And with the explosion of interest in pickleball with instructors Joe Rosa and Jody Thurman with more courts available. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness with large flat screens stretched across the weight room with Wi-Fi available, their own app to enjoy news, business, weather, or sports. Everywhere you look, there's energy, passion, and commitment. New touchless water fountains outside of each locker room, and all the locker rooms with showers, sauna, and whirlpool. Upgraded PA system throughout the world-class tennis courts with a youth academy led by pro Britt Coleman. Fitness and tennis merchandise available and a tanning bed. I promise you'll look and feel better. You just need to walk through the front door. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness with personal trainers Christy London and Randall Corley. 40-plus group exercise classes, including twice-a-week boot camp. It's time to react today, not tomorrow. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lake Shore Drive in Waco.
Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby is a homegrown, family-owned and operated must-visit pizza place in Waco. Fantastic pizza by the slice or get the whole pie to share. Great happy hour specials every single day, and it's not just pizza. Great wings. You have to try the Sikkim sauce, chili cheese fries, pizza pillows, and more. Dine in for a great hangout or carry-out. Order online at shortyspizzashack.com or do yourself a favor and bring your crew to the restaurant at 12th and Bagby. Shorty's Pizza Shack. Tell them Paul sent you by.
Since its inception, Pickup Outfitters has remained politically neutral. We love trucks of every persuasion, not just red and blue ones. But people keep asking us where we stand, and for this one time, we're going to break our neutrality. We oppose any government intervention or legislation to end truck nudity. We believe in the American right to drive nude vehicles. We think it's disgusting, we fight it every place we can, and we want to end it, but we want to end it the right way, peaceably. Therefore, we call on Congress and President Biden to respect the rights of truck owners. Our founding fathers didn't own a truck, but if they did, I bet they would have put a bed cover and running boards on their truck. The right to keep and bear your truck the way you want is fundamental to the fabric of this nation, and we believe in that right. So we urge you to come and take it at Pickup Outfitters, 220 Lake Erie Drive in Waco. On the web at createacommotion.com.
Don Humidor, your home with a 48-foot walk-in humidor with the elite cigar brands from around the world, including the #1 cigar of the year, Aging Room Cuatro Nicaragua. Plus, they have the great brands like Macanudo and Artur Fuente, Rocky Patel, Aston, and so much more. CBD, great for sore muscles, aches and pains, sleep, Vita Dreams, and anxiety, mild depression, general health and wellness. Their staff very knowledgeable on the subject. If anyone is curious about CBD, ask Carol and Ashley. Don Humidor in the Townwest Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
This segment on Baylor Athletics on Sikkim 365 Radio is brought to you by Richard Carr Buick GMC Cadillac. Learn more at richardcarr.com.
It is now the Richard Carr Buick GMC Cadillac Baylor Bear Hotline. We'll hear from Ricky Thompson momentarily. Here is the comment from Dave Aranda. When he was a little edgy in the postgame, as you could imagine, upset about the penalties, upset about a couple of things. And listen to how he talks about it 2 days later.
Dave, you seem to be kind of edgy a little bit in the postgame, which is fine because you lost. But is it time, in a way, are you almost of that mentality of it's time to take off the diapers? We got to go do some things right and get it done?
Well, I think, it is frustrating for me when, you want to win with character, when you really care about winning is very important to me, but how you win is more so. And to make that a real central part of what we want to be about and what we want to display on and off the field, and then to have, to make that almost a daily point, and to have that not reflect and have that not show up is frustrating. And so usually, you emphasize something and you get it. And so, we're talking about staff-wise about ways that we can be more effective in that area and be able to get a complete buy-in to where we can be better with that. Because I just feel, every game is going to be, a back and forth. Every game is going to be a fight in this league, and rightfully so. And we're going to have our hands full playing one opponent, as we've been playing two here for a while.
I think it's pretty obvious. He's kind of tired of maybe some of the things that can come back and haunt you. It almost did against Iowa State. It did against Oklahoma State, although they grilled Baylor with their running game. Ricky Thompson, Baylor sideline reporter, Baylor radio, former Baylor wide receiver, joins us. Could you kind of feel that, Ricky, that he's kind of fed up right now?
Yeah, you know what? I think he is. And I think this may be reflected
in a lot of places. He mentioned taking off the diapers, and I think at some point, too, not only with the dumb penalties, a couple of those committed by the same people, I think that's when you really get tired of it, when it's a repeat of a problem that's occurred game after game. And I don't know, guys, as bad as we played in the first half, you're in a position to win that game last Saturday. So that speaks well in one point that you can come back from really your worst half of the year in the season, yet have an opportunity to win, but then do a couple things late that cost you that opportunity. So I understand his frustration. I think we all were. I think that was a game that was winnable. We could have won that game. You've got to go back at some point, I think, a little bit. And you remember Aaron Rodgers a couple of years ago when Green Bay got blown out early, and he said, everybody just calm down.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we've got to have some of that, because if you go back and say you're 4-1 after 5, I think you take it at the beginning of the season. Now, you had a chance to go 5-0, and it's harder to take it at that point.
Yeah, Rick, if you told me after last year's Oklahoma State game that they would be 4-1 after this year's Oklahoma State game, I think most everybody would
and frustrated because they're not 5-0.
Yeah, frustrated, not 5-0. When it comes to growing up and some of that, the coaching staff's been presented an opportunity here with Matt Jones in particular. It's not necessarily a lot of little ticky-tack things when you have Matt Jones. It's 3 big penalties, including one that absolutely puts you in a position to lose the game on Saturday night. I guess sacrificial lamb would be maybe a good term on Matt Jones for right now, to make an example so that everybody can see. Is that what you would do?
Well, in the sense, yes. I wouldn't characterize it like that to the players, but I think he's already done that. When you take the guy out of the game, and you can see Coach Aranda say he's done, which I saw him say, that put your point across right there, because that was a point in the game where you needed Matt Jones. He had, 13 tackles? When he's in the game, the guy played well. You just can't do dumb stuff. And a lot of that's a reaction in the heat of the moment, but you just can't do it. You can't. And it's been costly, particularly costly Saturday night, because that was a game you had fought back to 17-14, had the football twice, only down by 3, and you just can't have that kind of stuff. So I would expect Matt's probably going to have a long week, as some of these guys will, but that's okay. That's football. That happens, and I think the way coaches and players respond to it can make a difference in a season. And I think Coach Aranda did the right thing, taking him out in a critical situation where you needed him, and telling everybody he's done. They took his helmet, and he was done for the rest of the night.
So, Ricky, the offense was bad enough for the most part on Saturday night that you had, and social media, so it is what it is. But you had people wondering if, like, Oklahoma State had thrown something completely different out there, if just the Baylor coaches weren't calling the right plays, blah, blah, blah. But, I mean, there was a lot of missed execution that was a result in some of the offensive struggles as well on the players. Just from your standpoint, what were you seeing that was such a struggle bus for this offense on Saturday night?
Well, I think Oklahoma State threw some wrinkles in there. They did. They played a little differently than they've been playing. They're always an aggressive defense up front. They run blitz, and I think you have to hit the throws downfield against those guys to get them off. I thought we did that finally. We hit some deep balls. Personally, of course, I'm a receiver. I understand that. But I would have taken some more shots against those guys. I think they were there. Gary missed Taekwon a couple times when it was 6, underthrew him a little bit. He made one great play coming back to the ball. Estrada made an incredible catch going up to grab one on a deep ball. So I thought the percentage of deep balls we completed was pretty high. So I think you probably should have taken some more shots. And with that, Smokey mentioned diapers. I think some point you take the diapers off Gary Bohannon and let him play. I mean, just let him go. He's going to have to be able to overcome an interception. I don't know of a quarterback that's never thrown one. So I just think you take the diapers off, let him play, let him run, let him throw. If he throws an interception, send him back in there and throw it again. But I thought Oklahoma State really had us on our heels the entire first half. and it seemed like we were maybe running right into what their calls were. I don't know the answer to that. I thought our offensive line got beat up a little bit in the first half, which we haven't seen that this year. That was really a game that I think got the best of them up front. Yet they came back the second half and on a 4th and 1 went 55 yards with Abram Smith. So you've got to keep plugging and keep going and just get past the dumb mistakes. You can live with getting beat up, but you can't live with beating yourself.
No, it's unacceptable. It's not like, it's not on occasion. It's almost, again, where they would be, because it almost cost them against Iowa State. West Virginia plays similar, right? It's going to be a game where this thing may not get to be a lot of points scored. And your thoughts, they're coming off an ugly loss at home to Texas Tech, who showed resiliency with what they did. Your thoughts about the Mountaineers?
Well, defensively, they're going to do the same thing. Remember how these guys play. They come after you. There's at least I hope one of the Stills brothers is gone, because I've been tired of watching them play. They've eaten our lunch up for, I think, about 6 years. At least one of them's gone. But they will be in the backfield. They will run blitz. They'll come after you on third down. Gary's going to have to be ready for that. The offensive line's going to have to be ready for that. It's been close games the last 2 years, and they're not going to change the way they play defensively. So it's going to be another opportunity against the same type of defense we saw with Oklahoma State. But I'm expecting you'll see some things a little differently. I think you'll see some more shots. I think they'll try to get outside with the football some. I think Abram Smith is a guy you really need to depend on against a defense like that and pound him in there. He made his best run of the night was one that was about 8 or 9 yards after his first contact. I don't know if y'all remember that one, but he picked up a first down on about a 14, 15-yard run. Well, I thought it was going to be about a 4-yard gain. Now, I think that's a kid that really pounds it, whereas Ebner is more of the speed guy, cutback guy, and there just weren't any lanes there to cut back against Oklahoma State.
Ricky, Treston Ebner completely shut down. R.J. Sneed completely shut down. How do you get those guys more involved if maybe their roles in the offense got figured out by Jim Knowles?
Well, I tell you what, I don't know if y'all saw one play. We swung Ebner out of the backfield on kind of a drag route and then up the field, and he was wide open behind the Oklahoma State secondary by 2 or 3 yards, and Gary threw it out of bounds. That was a play that was open, and I think that's how you get him involved. I throw him the football. I think that's his strong point. Run the circle routes with him, the drag routes out of the backfield, dump the football to him and get him some space. And I think the other thing that does, you hit him a couple of times like that, the defense will change the way they're playing. Either that or you'll keep pounding them outside with the pass play like that out of the backfield. But I think that's his strong point. I think Preston will be a great slot receiver, and I think out of the backfield, the key to me to get him open in the ball is to throw it to him in space versus trying to pound him inside. Not that he can't do that too, but I would try to throw it to him. Sneed, I don't know if it was just the scheme of where we ended up. Of course, RJ's not as fast as Taekwon, maybe on the deep balls. That's why they were going his direction. But as good a hand as you'll ever see. I just think in the middle of the field, I thought some of that was open too. And RJ will have his day. Of course, he had one against Kansas too when he scored 69 yards on the first play of the second half. But you got to get those guys the ball, no question.
Ricky, thank you. Appreciate your time. And we'll have you on again, man. Enjoy your opportunities to watch the game Saturday. If you had 4 consecutive weeks, you don't have to go anywhere. You know that, right?
Yeah, that's not bad. You got an open date in there.
Yeah.
If that counts. But, yeah, we got a long stretch of home games. 11 o'clock kickoff, then 2:30 against BYU. So I hope folks will show up. These could be 2 really good football games, and I think you've got a chance to win both of them.
Thank you, Ricky. Ricky Thompson, former Baylor star, and also played with Washington in the NFL, sideline reporter for Baylor Radio, joining us quite a bit now. Appreciate his time on Mondays. JJ Joe, perhaps on Wednesday of this week. All right, when we come back, we'll hear from David Helman, DallasCowboys.com. The Cowboys are not just 3-1 and kind of like just hype. It appears as if they're more than that. Now, there's still more than 3/4 of the season left, but they're doing things that we have not seen them do on both sides of the ball together in a long, long time. Paul Catalina's conversation with David Helman on the 3-1 start, the win against Matt Rule in Carolina. Sikkim 365 Radio. Waco Custom Marketplace, your home for tailgate food. And guess what? With those 3 home games in the next 4 weeks, why not? And you should. 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco, WacoCustomMarketplace.com. They have the pork tenderloin, which is perfect for tailgating. And on top of that, tri-tip, brisket, sausage, whatever chicken or poultry you want to cook as well. And even if you want some seafood, if you're doing something else with that. Maybe what you're cooking for dinner on Wednesday or Saturday or whenever it might be. Waco Custom Marketplace with fresh baked bread and kolaches every morning. And also, again, the butcher shop, pork, poultry, beef, and seafood right there for you. I get the big, thick cut bone-in ribeyes, but you can get whatever you want, and they have it. Wagyu as well, by the way. Oh, yeah, that's like it melts in your mouth. It's Waco Custom Marketplace at 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco.
Baylor University is where lights shine bright. So, let there be light. Let there be roommates and teammates, scholarship and championships. Let there be fresh starts and new traditions, fast friendships and lasting impacts. Let there be laughter. Let there be joy. Let there be light. Baylor University, where lights shine bright.
You want to know why Stonewood Dental is so successful? Listen to what happy customers have to say.
It's pleasant. It's different than any other dentist office. I really feel like they care. And it's not that you're here for 2 hours waiting on someone to take care of you. It's quick and easy, and I bring my kids, and my kids love being here too. They really love the treasure box. Staff is really nice and accommodating, real friendly. You feel more like home. It's not sterile looking. Everybody has their own personalized rooms with decorations and decor, and they'll even have a blanket for you when it's cold. I've recommended people to actually come here, and they are patients now. I really love it here. It feels like family.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
In Texas, there's pea-size hail and baseball-size hail. Guess which one hit our house? We didn't even know where to begin, but we called our Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent, and he was so reassuring. He knew exactly what to do to get our house back into shape and our lives back to normal. Now, we're even more thankful for the roof over our heads.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Stepping into a new pair of boots is great, but stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can also add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. There are more than 150 occupational specialties to help them find the best fit for their future. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Hey, this is Bryce Petty, former starting quarterback and 2-time Big 12 champion, and I know firsthand the importance of being in top shape both on and off the field. So listen up, men. If you're feeling beat down day in and day out and looking for that high-performance edge that separates the men from the boys, then look no further than the Petty Clinic Low T in Waco. Petty Clinic is a comprehensive men's healthcare clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Board-certified Dr. Kent Petty has a special interest in offering the highest quality medical care to men of all ages. Some of the services offered include screening and treatment for low testosterone or thyroid, infertility, high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, sleep apnea, while offering comprehensive wellness exams and complete men's health lab panels. High performance men, remember, it's not just a Petty thing. This is Bryce Petty, encouraging you to reach out and Google search Petty Clinic Low T or go to pettycliniclowt.com and get your complimentary lab screening today.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Cam Heathcott, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Cam Heathcott, covering Conroe and Houston, 936-756-7717 or cam.heathcott@edwardjones.com. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
And Elliott, huge hole! Ezekiel Elliott off to the races. Can he get there? Chin knocks it out of bounds inside the 10.
It's time for our weekly segment with David Helman of DallasCowboys.com.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
Welcome back, Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports. Paul Catalina alongside David Helman of DallasCowboys.com. And David, first things first, that win by the Cowboys on Sunday was really impressive in the way they came out in the second half. For the most part, they let off the gas and the Panthers got back in, but we're seeing a whole lot of things from this team we have not seen in years. Multiplicity on both offense and defense. Really, you don't know where it's coming from where. Turnovers all over the place. This team is kind of intriguing and fun to watch for the first time in a while.
Yeah, it's a good way to put it. Yeah, man, you mentioned coming out in the second half. I said earlier today, I think that third quarter was the best quarter of football I've ever seen a Cowboys team play. 160 yards of offense, 20 points unanswered, 0 points allowed on defense, and 2 takeaways to boot. It was just an encapsulation of how well they're capable of playing. And it's not realistic to think that they're going to play that way for 4 full quarters, but the fact that they can even tap into that and the thought that they can do that more consistently going forward, it gives you a lot to be excited about.
One of the things personnel-wise the Cowboys have always been good at is they're pretty good at hitting on the stars, the A-level players. What they haven't been good on is the worker bees, and maybe that was the coaching staff not getting the most out of them, but there were sometimes at certain positions they would lose someone and be like, well, that's it. They're not going to get to the quarterback. They're not going to stop the run, or nobody's going to catch a pass. Now it seems like whether it's wide receiver, defensive line, whatever it is, guys like Terrell Basham can step in and play pretty well. Or, Oso Odighizuwa is a rookie and playing out of his mind. Or you can see rookies and free agents that are meshing well and playing. Is that Dan Quinn on defense and the way Mike McCarthy approaches things? Or what do you think the big change has been there?
Yeah, first of all, I think that's a wonderful point, and it's something that I've been thinking about a lot since the game ended. And I think it's a little bit of everything. I think everybody deserves a little bit of credit when you talk about this, because it's Will McClay and his personnel department that finds these guys. But what do they use as their template for who they want? They get input from the coaching staff. So go down the roster. Terrence Steele, undrafted free agent last year, second year. Just leaps and bounds better than he was having got a chance to play last year. Dalton Schultz breaking onto the scene as like a legitimate starting caliber tight end, 4th round pick a few years ago. You mentioned Terrell Basham, journeyman defensive end that they liked during the draft process 3 or 4 years ago. Same thing with Jaron Kearse, playing probably the best football of his entire career after being a special teamer and a role player most of his career. You mentioned Oso Odighizuwa, Chauncey Golston, a 3rd round pick who didn't have a training camp, flashing, looking fantastic in just his second game. So, like I said, I think it's a little bit of everything. You got to credit Will McClay and his guys for going and finding this talent, but what are you doing with them once you get them in the door? And, particularly in the case of the young guys, Oso Odighizuwa, Chauncey Golston, those are the guys that kind of come to the forefront of my mind. You got to give Dan Quinn and his coaches a lot of credit for getting the most out of those guys as quickly as they have. And you're right, it's not something that we've seen here in recent years.
When you look at a lot of things on the team over the years, there was such a concentration on stars. Jerry's always great to the stars. Nobody, And I think a lot of people outside the Dallas bubble, or sometimes even Cowboys fans, don't understand this, is that everybody loves playing for Jerry Jones. And if you leave the Cowboys, it's either you want to really, really badly for some strange reason, or they've gotten everything out of you and you're kind of done. And because of that, they've not been good at maybe having the space for the young talent. I'm optimistic to say that the Jones family has now been better at figuring it out as they go. Am I kind of onto something there?
That's an interesting point. I mean, I agree with your premise that if you're a star caliber player and the Cowboys want to keep you, they usually do. They find a way to make it work with the big money guys, the guys that kind of stir the drink, if you will. I don't think they've ever let a player walk that they genuinely wanted to keep. You think about DeMarco Murray. I feel like they kind of felt he was at the end of his prime. They wound up being right. Who else comes to mind? There've been Byron Jones is another great example. You could argue perhaps a mistake, but they didn't feel like they were getting the interception production in that regard. They let him walk. So yeah, typically if they want to keep a guy, they usually do. But you mentioned, speaking of the worker bees, and we're getting a little ahead of ourselves. I understand that, but there's an interesting conversation to be had because there are a lot of these worker bee type players that are going to be coming available this year, whether that's Michael Gallup, Dalton Schultz making his case for being a guy that you probably want to keep around. What do you do with Randy Gregory? Not probably a better player than a worker bee, but a guy who hasn't been able to put together a very complete resume. Then you think about these free agent guys, whether it's DeMonte Casey, Jaron Kearse, Malik Hooker, all three of them playing very, very well. So a lot of season left, but I think there are going to be a lot of interesting choices to make about those kind of mid-tier type players.
Yeah, and I mean, they're finally hitting on something and kind of getting lucky. I mean, and lucky is not. I'm not saying that they're didn't know what they were doing, but there's when it comes to DeMonte Casey and Malik Hooker in particular, they're playing well and coming off of drastically terrible injuries last year.
Yeah, and you mentioned I think luck is a big part of it, and we've seen. This is kind of the Cowboys' strategy. They buy low on talented guys for one reason or another. Sometimes it's because you can't stay out of trouble off the field. Sometimes it's because injuries are a factor. But they love to take gambles on guys with high upside. They saw it very briefly pay off with Rolando McClain. They saw it blow up in their face terribly with Greg Hardy. A few other guys probably come to mind if I think about it. But this has been something that they've tried many times in the past. And it's interesting. It seems to be hitting across the board. Especially Casey and Hooker are the two obvious ones, but these are guys that they have, very, very good NFL resumes. It's mainly been injuries that derailed them. And both guys staying healthy to this point has been huge for them, and they're playing like it. And you see what it can do for a defense when you actually hit on those type of gambles.
One day somebody's going to write a book about Greg Hardy because his saga is very interesting, and that was. I remember the locker room when Greg Hardy was on that team. There was a palpable tension about there were many guys who just did not like him. You could just tell that the way he'd walk past somebody and they just had a way about them man, I can't believe they brought in this jerk. And then the next year they had the great run and their chemistry in the locker room was so ridiculous. And it was I thought is it just getting that guy out? That would be an interesting story to tell from people like you who are there every day and got to see those things and how one guy in the locker room can create so much tension like he did.
Yeah, I think 2016 was so special. I think it would be a disservice to put all of that on Greg Hardy. Yeah. I mean, Dak Prescott and Ezekiel Elliott showing up as rookies and just sort of galvanizing the team with this youthful energy. I think that was a big part of it. But yeah, like I said, it blew up horribly in more ways than one. Obviously, they didn't get what they paid for on the field. And he really ruined the chemistry in the locker room for that team. So I would like to think that was a big learning experience for them in the sense that you got to consider more than just what a guy can do for you on the field when you make those types of decisions. And to kind of bring it back to modern times, obviously that feels like ancient history. You're starting to hear players talk about it. Amari Cooper talked about it Sunday after the game. And even, we don't have the same type of access as we're used to because of the COVID restrictions. You don't get to see as much as you did back then, wandering around in the locker room and stuff like that. But it's very obvious that this team has good, solid chemistry, and it's still very early in the season. It's exciting to see what that could mean if they keep this up, because you can tell already that this is a very tight-knit bunch.
Before I get to the Giants, I do want to talk. I'd be remiss if we don't talk about Trayvon Diggs and what he's been doing. I do have a question about player management, or whatever that was, why he didn't play late in the game, especially when Carolina started to come back. But the Cowboys have not seen anything like this, not just in recent times, like maybe 4 or 5 coaching staffs ago. That's when they've had a player like Trayvon Diggs in the secondary.
I didn't know it was possible for a cornerback to have a season like this, to be honest with you. This is my 9th season covering the Cowboys. They're the only NFL team I've ever covered. And 2 or 3 picks used to be the mark for a successful season. I mean, that used to be the number that the leader in the clubhouse had at the end of the year. Trayvon Diggs already has a Pro Bowl resume. Like, I understand how dumb that sounds, but you go back and look at league leaders, 5 or 6 picks is usually good enough for you to be at the top of the list by the end of the year. And he's got that after 1 month of play. So this is unprecedented, to say the least. And I mean, it's super exciting. I hope they keep throwing at the guy, because at the rate he's going on, I'm not going to blame them if they stop.
Absolutely. All right. The Giants this week got their first win over a Saints team that is trying to figure out who they are in the post-Drew Brees era. They have a lot of injuries and not a lot of playmakers, the Saints do. So I'm not sure even how to judge the Saints, other than, that they're just going to be that team from week to week that either they have this great game plan like they did the first week, or they're going to struggle like they have the last couple weeks. Of course, lose a game late to the Giants. But the Giants are a team at 1-3. There's not a lot of cohesiveness there right now on offense. They seem to be kind of off kilter. What have you seen, if you've seen anything at all from the Giants yet? And should the Cowboys be, I know this is an NFL game, you're always worried, but should they be worried at all about some of the things that the Giants can do?
Yeah, I mean, we're having this conversation on Monday afternoon. I'm not done digesting the Cowboys-Panthers game, let alone moving on to the Giants. So I've only seen bits and pieces from, I watched them play Thursday Night Football. I saw bits and pieces of this Saints game. But the one thing about the Giants, and I'll just be candid, I mean, this is a game that I expect the Cowboys to win somewhat comfortably. I just don't think this Giants team is on the same level as what this Cowboys team has shown us the last 3 weeks, or even 4 weeks, really, because they played great in the opener as well. But the Giants have talent, right? I mean, they got Sterling Shepard. They paid Kenny Golladay, who's a very underrated receiver. Evan Ingram's a dangerous tight end. Haven't mentioned Saquon Barkley yet, who had a great game against the Saints. And then you spend a first-round pick on Kadarius Toney, who is incredibly fast and incredibly elusive. I say all this to say, as long as their quarterback is capable of getting the ball to those guys, you should consider them a threat. And I think that's been the problem, is Daniel Jones just hasn't proven that he's capable of doing that on a regular basis. Now, he seems to have played a fantastic game in New Orleans the other day, 400 yards, getting the ball to Saquon to kind of get them back into that game in the final minutes. So, I mean, if he's playing like that, you absolutely need to worry about this Giants offense. They don't lack for talent. But my thing with them is they just haven't proven that they can play that cleanly or that dangerously on a week-to-week basis. And I'm not sure a 3:30 game against this very opportunistic Cowboys defense is the place for him to start putting that together.
All right, Smokey and Craig would be mad at me if I did not at least mention Auburn and LSU and how frustrating a game that had to be.
Why would they want to hear about that?
But I'm curious, from a fan of another SEC team, Bo Nix seems to be that player that no one in the SEC can wait until he graduates, because he's just good enough to be annoying.
Yeah, you took the words right out of my mouth. I mean, I don't want to speak ill of the guy. I'm sure he's a perfectly lovely person. I've never met him, but I hate playing him. Mm-hmm. I don't think he's a good quarterback. In terms of like standing in the pocket, making his reads, making the right throw, throwing it on time, throwing it accurately, throwing it with the right amount of velocity. Like, I don't think he does any of those things well, but he's a hell of an athlete, and he can run around back there until everybody's too tired to cover. And it felt like he did it 8 times against LSU on Saturday. And those plays count. Backyard football counts the same thing as drawing the play up perfectly. So you can't take that away from him. But my God, is it frustrating doing everything right for 8 seconds and he still makes the play because you can't get him down. That was a very frustrating night. LSU, it felt like they should have won that game by 14 points and they wound up losing because they couldn't stop kicking field goals. They're not very good, and they've lost 2 games at the start of October, and that's still with Alabama, Ole Miss, Arkansas, all still to go. So, it's hard to find too much optimism for LSU right now.
David, you could be in my shoes where I was absolutely beside myself because FSU beat Syracuse.
Hey, that's the beauty of football season, man. You never know what you're going to get. That's what made 2019 so special. Mm-hmm. That's why I won't stop talking about it. I got a tattoo to commemorate it because for every one of those seasons, you might get 100 of these miserable slogs of mediocrity or whatever. That's what makes football great, though, is the sample size is so small. You never know what to expect. So, I love it anyway, even though this year, once again, is not really going the Tigers' way.
David Helman, DallasCowboys.com with us every Monday here on Sick'em 365 Radio. We're back with more after this.
Alan Samuels, Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat. Come by, let's be friends. Loop 340 east of 84 in Waco. Had a conversation earlier today with Ted Teague on what they have been going on. The Ram Power Days, which includes the J.D. Power Winter Awards. It's amazing. The new Ram 2021 Ram has been ranked #1 automotive brand by J.D. Powers. Initial quality study with the 2021 Dodge brand ranked #2. It doesn't stop there. How about the 2021 Jeep Gladiator, named the highest quality mid-size truck in automotive models? That's on the lot right there at Alan Samuels, Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat. They've had their Ram Power Days. Of course, you could always count on the great Jeep Grand Cherokee, the Jeep Grand Cherokee L. There's the Gladiator. There's the Laredo. Constant. What they have, Ram trucks, Jeeps, and, of course, they have the SUVs if you want as well with what they have with the Buick and the minivans. It's Alan Samuels, Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat, starting yet another month. Loop 340 east of 84 in Waco.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
Baylor Scott and White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics. The team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, hand or wrist injuries, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trusts. Baylor Scott and White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
It's time for some high school football. Berg Colgan Ford proudly celebrates the Panthers, Cadets, Lions, and all the Central Texas football teams as they march their way through the season and down the field. Hi, I'm Mark Stewart with Berg Colgan Ford. We'd love to show you our Broncos, Raptors, and Mustangs. These vehicles are winners with their sporty options and designs. Nominate who you think deserves the Built Ford Tough Player of the Week at FordPlayerOfTheWeek.com. Visit us anytime at BKFord.com, making buying your next Ford simple at BK Ford.
Born in Waco, Brotherwell Brewing exists to serve the Central Texas community with locally crafted beer of the highest quality. They want to bring Central Texas closer to the brewing experience so everyone can enjoy well-made beer as much as they do. For 2.5 years, they've been bringing high-quality beer to Central Texas at their location on Bridge Street in East Waco. Brotherwell Brewing believes in community and bringing people together to enjoy products made in their community. So for your game day, whether it's a tailgate or at home, stop by Brotherwell Brewing for high-quality craft beer made right here in Central Texas, 400 East Bridge Street, and check them out online at brotherwell.com.
Boozers is the wedding ring store and more. If you're ready to get engaged or already married and want to upgrade your wife's ring for a special anniversary, Boozers is the place to go. With the largest selection of premier quality diamond engagement rings and wedding rings in Central Texas. They have 7 cases with over 300 styles of rings from top designers like Natalie Kay. Choose from yellow, white, or rose gold, plus beautiful top quality loose diamonds. With an in-house jewelry, they can also custom make anything you want. Bring in a picture or drawing and let Boozers create your one-of-a-kind pendant or ring. They can even use some of your old gold and diamond jewelry to create something new. At Boozers, you'll find a great selection of quality timepieces, and Boozers is the place for expert watch maintenance and repairs too. They specialize in expert Rolex watch repair for fine jewelry, watches, custom work, and more. Go to Boozers on Valley Mills and Lake Air Drive in Waco.
Boozers, the wedding ring store and more.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
The 5 o'clock hour is sponsored by Edward Jones Investments with financial advisor Tom Albers, staying in touch with you and your money through these difficult and changing times. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
All right, here we go, this 5 o'clock hour. Longtime columnist for the Oklahoman, Daily Oklahoman, covers Oklahoma, covers Oklahoma State, the Big 12, and much more. Barry Trammell joins us now on Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports. Barry, thanks for your time. Does Oklahoma know who they are?
Oh, yeah, I think they do know, and I think it's a little bit strange to them. I think they're a sort of a schizophrenic team. You know, one week they play great offense, not so great defense, and the next week it's the opposite, and then it goes back again. So, you know, just when you get one thing fixed, the other one starts to leak. So it's an interesting year in Oklahoma. They've got 5 games, and 4 have been one-possession games at the end.
Do you feel that there is an awakening on the horizon once some of the guys, especially on the offensive line, gain more experience? They're not getting those chunk plays anymore, Barry, and in large part that's due to the offensive lines not knocking people around like they did before.
Yeah, now the running game came through pretty good Saturday, so that was a big improvement. Best they've looked all year. K-State's always a physical team, so that's a good sign. I think defenses are playing them different. Defenses are playing deep, keeping everything under them. I think Iowa State has really impacted the Big 12, the way the Cyclones play defense. Mostly a 3-man line, occasional blitz, but not many. And for a team like Oklahoma, which has had, a guy like Spencer Rattler is a very good deep ball thrower, Baker Mayfield, Kyler Murray. Sooners have liked to throw it around quite a bit, and they're just not letting teams aren't letting Oklahoma do that. So you got to be patient. They were much more patient Saturday against K-State. Spencer Rattler threw deep twice, 1 incomplete, 1 interception. The rest of the game, he was 22 of 23 on short and intermediate passes. So I think that's what Oklahoma's going to have to do until they bring those safeties up a little bit.
Barry, what have you thought about Spencer Rattler's play so far? I mean, obviously did well enough to get the job done on Saturday and some impressive numbers, as you just mentioned, as far as the completion percentage goes. But it has been up and down, and it's not all on him. The offensive line has something to do with that. What are your thoughts on Rattler at this point?
He played just so-so most of the first three and a half games. He's been really good. Second half, West Virginia, at K-State, really good. I think he was just going through an adjustment period on this, what we just talked about, the difference in how you have to play. And I think he got a little impatient at times in the second half against Tulane, against Nebraska. But for the most part, he's been really good these last game and a half, and maybe he's starting to realize that, hey, we're just going to have to, I got some guys that can do things with the ball. We'll throw short and see if they can make it a big play. When your running game is slow, nothing's going to work. People think about Lincoln Riley as a disciple of Mike Leach, but he's actually the air raid type stuff that we remember so well from 20 years ago. That's not what Oklahoma does anymore, if ever. Lincoln's always run the ball a bunch. And when that running game gets stuffed, which it's frankly mostly has been the first four games, then things sort of get off the rails. But it was back on track. The tailbacks combined for, I don't know, I think it was 19 carries, 120 yards or something like that. So really, really productive. And that's what they need. If they can run the ball, all this passing stuff will take care of itself.
Do you feel like it's taken Kennedy Brooks, who we love? We watched him in high school. And then, of course, he's had a nice thing going and opted out last year. It seems like to me that he's kind of just getting into a groove or a rhythm. Is that been mentioned at all?
Yeah, no, most people wouldn't agree with you, and I probably wouldn't agree with you. Kennedy Brooks always looks like he's in a rhythm to me. Here's the deal. For the first four games, they went more with Eric Gray at tailback. That changed Saturday, 15 carries for Kennedy Brooks, 4 for Gray. They threw Gray 2 or 3 passes. But I wonder, and I haven't asked Lincoln this, and he wouldn't tell us even if it was true. They're down to 2 varsity tailbacks, scholarship tailbacks. And I think going into the season, Lincoln was very cautious about protecting both of them. Can't afford to get either one of them hurt. And I think Brooks is the guy they want the most. I think in a way Lincoln's been protecting Kennedy Brooks and knows when it comes to Texas and Oklahoma State and some of the games that's going to determine this season, he's going to need Kennedy Brooks to shoulder the load, maybe more than ever before. So I think there's been some protectionism going on with Kennedy Brooks. Eric Gray's a wonderful player. He's fine. But Kennedy Brooks is something else in terms of he's not a home run hitter, but he sure makes a lot of 9-yard gains. Mm-hmm. And he sure takes a lot of 3-yard gains and turn them into 5-yard gains. And in this new age of football that we're seeing this season with less scoring, fewer possessions, sort of old-fashioned football, when Sam Bradford's the quarterback or Baker Mayfield and it's video game football, who cares if your tailback makes 3 or 5 yards? It doesn't matter. If somebody's going to throw for 17 yards on the next snap. But in this kind of football, the difference between 3 and 5 yards is the difference between winning and losing a game. And Kennedy Brooks is magnificent at that. I think Lincoln's protecting him.
Barry Trammell, the Oklahoman, with us on Sikkim 365 Radio.
Barry, a couple weeks ago, maybe Oklahoma fans probably looking forward to this matchup with Texas after they got throttled by Arkansas. But since really the second half of the fourth quarter of that Arkansas game, they have not stopped. Everything's kind of gone their way. What have you seen that's so different from Texas over the last 3 weeks that should give Oklahoma a little bit more pause than they would have had 3 weeks ago?
Well, I think that Texas offense is much better than it was what we saw through that Arkansas halftime. Clearly, Bijan Robinson can run it, and Texas can run it pretty well. But Casey Thompson, he's not, he's an Oklahoma kid. He grew up about 8 miles from my house. so I know all about Casey Thompson. He's not a fabulous passer, but he's a pretty good passer, and he's pretty mobile, and he can get some things done, especially when the running game is going great guns. So I think that Texas offense is much more explosive, much more productive with Casey Thompson at the controls. I think Texas defense is probably a little bit still suspect. Arkansas pushed them around pretty good, and while Arkansas got them a good team, it's not. Let's not pretend they're the '85 Bears or somebody. I mean, this is not a Georgia. Snuffed them out pretty good. So I think the Texas defense is still a major question mark, but I think that offense is probably for real.
So, Barry, how do you think Oklahoma matches up? I mean, I know you just pointed out the kind of scouting report on Texas. Oklahoma's defense, maybe not the best showing against K-State, but they've obviously been kind of the story of why they are unbeaten still at this point, having to pick up the load for the offense on occasion. The offense starting to kind of maybe get their bearings. I mean, how do you feel about the matchups they're going to face against Texas?
Well, I mean, Texas will have, even though the Texas defense has not been, great, Texas has good ball players, and it's going to be tough for that Oklahoma offensive line to push them around. They sometimes do, sometimes don't, but sometimes do down in the Cotton Bowl. So if they can get the run, then I think Texas is going to be in trouble. But if Texas can sort of put the kibosh on the OU running game, the Sooner offense is not going to be as explosive as what most people have come to expect. The OU defense has actually played really well on first and second down in most games, but even in the games where they kept points to a minimum, they can't get off the field on third down or fourth down. Even Kansas State converted 4 fourth downs. OU had 7 possessions Saturday in Manhattan total. In the old days, they'd have 7.5.
Mm-hmm.
So they need some help from that defense getting off the field and get the ball back to Spencer Rattler.
Yeah, I saw that. That seemed to be, there's nothing worse than that. You can't get off the field and you can't get the ball. And you're right, Kansas State just didn't care. They just said, we're going to go for it no matter where we are. And that's got to be a problem. That's got to be a concern.
Yeah, and Kansas State had a pretty good strategy on like 3rd and 9. They didn't run a play to make 9 yards. They'd run a play to make 5 yards. And then go for it on 4th and 4. Then worry about the 4 yards. So, Sooners have got to change that. I mean, you can't. Their percentage on 3rd and long defense is terrible this year. That 3rd and long is where you ought to be making all your money, and they really haven't done that this year.
We saw Oklahoma State, Baylor in Stillwater in a battle of two teams unbeaten, and Oklahoma State hammered the ball in the first half, and then they just made enough plays, overcome the turnovers from Spencer Sanders. I saw under your Twitter feed, I'm not sure if you wrote this, but it's like that Spencer Sanders is the Tasmanian devil. Is that kind of what he creates, so much anxiety watching him play for OSU fans?
Yeah, and Mike Gundy talked about it. He said, you know what? He said, I love Spencer Sanders as a leader and all that. He said, you just got to live with him, some of the things he does. He makes a lot of plays. He'll throw it great, but he said he's going to have some games where he doesn't, he makes some mistakes. He said, you just have to live with it. So Cowboys were able to live with it Saturday night. You don't win many modern football games when you lose the turnover battle 3-0. But in this day and age, where the scoring is less, turnovers aren't quite as catastrophic. In the old days, around here we know it well because of the wishbone. Switzer's teams used to lose 5 fumbles and beat somebody 41-14. Well, part of that is if your offense when a turnover occurs in the modern age, when Baker Mayfield, Robert Griffin, Tyler Murray, one of those guys is on the field, you commit a turnover, you don't worry about the field position. You worry about, dang, there was a chance for us to score. We had the ball. We were going to score. That's really not what OSU is about. There's no great reason to think they're going to march down the field and score, when the offense takes the field. So if they commit a turnover, it's not like, well, there was a chance to score. Probably weren't going to score anyway. Defense is tough enough that it can sort of stand in the gap and keep teams from scoring. So turnovers aren't quite as costly, I don't think, in this day and age with OSU. But still, he needs to take care of the ball. If Spencer Sanders plays the way he did against K-State, he was fantastic. They're going to be really tough to beat because they got a good defense, and they can run the ball to some degree. And he's a guy that can really run and make plays with his feet. So if he doesn't throw the ball to the other team, they can be a handful in Stillwater.
Yeah, Jalen Warren, we've talked about it today. He runs so hard. I'd watched him before, but, Baylor's usually pretty physical, and Oklahoma State was the more physical team, which was interesting to see that. And that defense led by Jim Knowles, Barry, I know he's been around Stillwater for a little while now, has a great story, but just how impressed have you been by him, and what's kind of the buzz surrounding Jim Knowles and what he's done with this defense?
Well, it's been a slow process, He replaced a good coach. Gundy fired Glenn Spencer after the 17 season, I think it was. And Glenn had done a really good job. It wasn't 1984 or anything, but they were doing a pretty good job on defense. And Gundy said, let's try to be better. Knowles struggled putting in his system year one. They got pretty good year two, and they got really good year three, and I think they're really good now. So, he's without superstars. I don't know that there's a bunch of NFL prospects out there on the field, but they got guys that can run. They got a line that's pretty deep and can really make plays. So the defense is probably going to carry OSU throughout the season, and they're 5-0, and so they're at least in the running for something special.
Barry, we have not talked to you since late July. We haven't talked to you in a while, but since late July when the news about Oklahoma, Texas, the SEC, and the Big 12 has had kind of a semi-comeback with what they've been able to do to add 4 teams. How has that gone over in Oklahoma with what they've added and somehow survived yet another one of these realignment-type earthquakes?
Oh, it's been well received. There's still a lot of consternation, not about the format or the 12 teams. Everybody's pretty excited about that. Just the financials. Everybody knows that that's the uncertainty. That's the concern. Will this work? Will they be able to get close to what they've been making? How big of a haircut are they going to take? That's really the concern. But when you think about adding Central Florida and Cincinnati and Brigham Young, I'm not personally excited about Houston, but you talk about those other 3 teams, those other 3 programs, that brings a lot of life in. Now, does it have the national branding of OU and Texas? No. It's sort of fun to get fresh blood and new teams and good teams. Don't look now, but two of those teams are in the top 10.
Yeah.
BYU's 10, Cincinnati's up to 5 or wherever they're at. And Central Florida's, 17 and 18 were in back-to-back major bowls. So we're talking about some really good programs. I think it's got the potential to be a really good football league. I really do.
Barry, I'm just curious because there was so much speculation after all that happened. Did you believe that Oklahoma State was going to find a life raft in the Pac-12 or the Big Ten or somewhere along those lines, or did you feel like their best bet was the Big 12 sticking together and that was one of their only options?
Oh, I didn't know for sure, but I didn't think that Pac-12 expansion was an automatic or even necessarily likely. I think Pac-12 would like to expand. I think it would like to raise its branding. I think it realizes that adding 4 good schools from the Big 12 would help them in a lot of ways. But, their presidents make decisions based on all kinds of things. And the Pac-12 is not all that interested in adding schools that are so different culturally from Stanford and Cal Berkeley and Oregon. That's going to be a difficult, if anything ever happens like that, that's going to be a difficult marriage. And it wasn't going to be all that pleasant for the OSUs and TCUs and Texans, whoever might have been involved. It wasn't going to be all that pleasant for them. So this, I think, was the best solution if the money works. Here's the deal, guys. Right now, you'd have to say the new look Big 12 going forward is in, from a competitive standpoint, is in just as good a shape as the Pac-12.
Mm-hmm.
And frankly, the ACC, same goes for the ACC. The ACC is really Clemson. That's what we're talking about. Clemson is the ACC, and we see this year with Clemson struggling. I mean, there's nothing at all to get excited about the ACC. Their last unbeaten were Wake Forest and Boston College. I mean, you don't want to see those teams if it's the Belk Bowl. So, I think the Big 12 has solidified itself. Before OU and Texas bolted, the Big 12 solidified itself as the number 3 conference. And I think the new look Big 12 has a chance to get back to that status fairly soon. I don't know if it will, but it has a chance to.
Barry, thank you, buddy. Appreciate your time. Barry Trammell, Oklahoman, for Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports, has been covering Oklahoma football, the Big 12, and the country, a columnist for a long, long time. At Barry Trammell, BerryTrammell. And one of our chat room, I think I just went blank, said, I wish he would get, I'm not going to repeat, I wish he would get as excited when he talks about Oklahoma State as he does Oklahoma.
Yeah, I didn't notice much of a difference, but
Donnie,
I can understand where people probably do pick up on that. Yeah, I mean, I think this Oklahoma-Texas game is going to be fascinating for a lot of different reasons. I mean, just the matchup itself is always one you look forward to, but this is a wildly different matchup than it's been in recent years. I mean, Texas had the goof of goofs as their head coach the last few years, and Tom Herman, and just kind of the immature way that he had that program. They just, I don't know. With Sarkeesian, it's just night and day. Like the focus, the energy, the physicality. I mean, it's across the board. I did the play calling. I just think it's night and day, and they are actually operating like a premier, blue blood type program should be operating. I mean, it's not perfect by any stretch, but it's a lot better than what we saw the last few years with Tom Herman, where they were finding ways to lose and not showing up. So I think they're going to be rip-roaring ready to go this weekend. I'm picking Texas to win this game as of right now. I might change that by tonight. I don't know. But just my early gut is saying Texas because they've looked more impressive. At the same time, Oklahoma's undefeated for a reason. As much as they've struggled, they still find ways to win. And wouldn't surprise me if they did that again this weekend. So I'm very curious about what goes down on Saturday.
Tom Herman run Bijan Robinson 35 or 6 times in a game ever?
He wouldn't even get 20 carries.
No, 20, like there were times last year where you'd see Bijan Robinson rip off a 25-yard run, and you're like, well, gotta give that guy the ball again, and then he wasn't even in the game for 18 plays.
Yeah,
you're like, what are you doing, Tom?
No, he's a special player. No question.
Sometimes. Here's the thing I like about Steve Sarkeesian's offense. He has simplified the essence of it. It's not a simple offense. I mean, you see there's a lot of different things of it, but here's his mission. The best guys are going to get the ball in their hands. That means Bijan Robinson. That means Whittington. That means all these guys that are the best players. Tom Herman's offense was just simple. It was, my quarterback is going to do everything. Every single thing. And it either works or it doesn't. And that was what it was. And, I know that was the preseason, but I was not surprised to see Sam Ehlinger do so well for the Colts in the preseason with some actual quarterback coaching as opposed to, all right, Sam, go out there and be big and tough. Go make something happen. That's not really coaching. That's just, go be a super athlete, which he was.
Yep.
Well, Oklahoma's got to shore some things up on defense. I mean, I think if, you handle – it's easy to say you handle Robinson. I mean, that's going to be the big key is, like, how do they handle Bijan Robinson? If they are able to keep him relatively in check, I like their chances because we have not had to see Casey Thompson go and win a football game yet, right? We've seen him have a really nice completion percentage and manage the game really well and – do far more in the positive category than in the negative category. I mean, he's done exactly what they've needed him to do, but we have not seen them in the heat of the moment, in the Cotton Bowl, game on the line, rankings on the line, like all that stuff, him have to go and win a football game. So you stop Robinson and then make him have to go to work. And I'm sure he's ready for it. He's an Oklahoma kid, like Barry said. He's the son of Charles Thompson, who's a Sooners legend. I mean, for goodness sake. So I'm sure he would love nothing more than to upset Dad and beat the team he grew up watching on Saturday. So he'll be rip roaring ready to go. And Riley better have his guys ready as well. I mean, this is the game they all circle, and I think they're pretty evenly matched. I think this could easily go either way, and that's always the case regardless, but I think especially this year, it really could go either way.
Last year, Bijan Robinson had 183 yards or so in the bowl game against Colorado, had 703 yards on 86 carries. He has 105 carries on 652 yards, and they've played 5 games.
Wow. Yeah.
Because they feed him.
Yeah.
Feed the animal. He's a difference, man. He's got that stride and balance and vision.
Okay, I'll take you to any level. Almost every level of football, running backs get better as you give them the ball. Because receivers aren't necessarily running at you. They're running away from you already. That's their goal, is to run away from you at the start. Running backs are running at you. So physically, if you've got a good running back who continues to run at you and at you and at you and at you, then you get tired of that. And Bijan Robinson is not only someone who runs around you, he runs through you. Like Abram Smith at Baylor. About 15 times you have to tackle him. You're like, I don't want to tackle this dude anymore.
Yeah, last year, and we get into this, but Bijan Robinson's most carries in a game were 16. 16.
Well, it was a short schedule.
And I know he's a freshman, but he was, I know. But because Ellinger was their battering ram.
No,
and Rashawn Johnson got a few carries, obviously, as well.
I don't know what Ellinger's average number of carries were, but if it was 20, it wouldn't shock me. I mean, he was getting like 20 carries a game. I mean, he was so much of their offense. But, Bijan's special. It's got to be nice for Longhorn fans to have a recruit that was so highly touted to actually live up to it. Not saying that others haven't. Not saying that all of them don't. But, particularly at running back, it's been a long time. Deontay Foreman had some success a few years ago. That was 2,000 yards. Yeah, had a good season, and they've had guys here or there. But, I remember all the buzz around Keontae Ingram?
Yep.
Remember what he was supposed to be, like the difference-making, like legend in the making, and he's transferred to USC. They've got a guy who's living up to that billing, and they just have to feed him and keep him running. And the more he runs, the better he'll be, and then the more of a chance you have to win. But, Oklahoma first and foremost has to stop him on Saturday.
When we come back, by the way, Scott Drew and Baylor men's basketball opened up practice, the defending champions. Jack just got back from that. We'll talk more about that again tomorrow. And I had one other note. I know we got to go. We'll come back with that maybe tomorrow on we'll do that tomorrow on the Big 12 and the Texas teams when everything comes together and what they're going to try to do with kind of a special type of maybe trophy. This is Sikkim 365 Radio.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive and North 19th Street in Waco. You've heard us talking about it since day one here. They are a hidden gem, and I say hidden gem, I mean a hidden gem. They're, right there, Lakeshore Drive, North 19th Street. Walk into the store. They have an unbelievable selection of almost everything you need. Wine, spirits, the craft beer is second to none in Central Texas. And they've got a great array of high-end bourbons like Pinhook, Brush Creek, Buffalo Trace, Weller, Garrison Brothers, Thomas S. Moore, Hooten Young, and Bardstown. Great customer service and a speedy drive-through window. Riverbend Liquor and Wine. Find out more on Facebook and Instagram.
When it comes to me and my money, I know the way it should be. I need a partner I can count on. That's Genco and me.
Refinance your vehicle today at Genco with rates as low as 1.69% for 48 months and have 90 days of no payments. Refinancing can lower your payment, so you pay less for your car. Apply online and get an additional 0.1% off our already low rate. Thank you, Genco. And don't forget, your vote counts. Vote today for your local school to win $1,500 with Genco's School Spirit Competition. For more information, go to gencofcu.org.
Annual percentage rate subject to change without notice, subject to credit approval, membership eligibility, and loan policies. NCUA Equal Housing Lender.
They're people I trust. They treat me like family. My money, my future, my credit union. Genco.
Grant Dideker, under the umbrella of Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, McLennan County agent. When you contact people about insurance, and people are hit up with it all the time, what do you tell them? What do you say? I know you say you educate, but Texas Farm Bureau Insurance is obviously successful for a lot of different reasons. It has hundreds of thousands.
Well, it's personal service. Okay. It's one-on-one service. Just yesterday, went to a client's house, met with the couple, went over all the coverages, and they said, wow, we've, never had this before. We've had this different insurance and that different insurance, but we've never had somebody actually come to the house and go over everything with us. And wow, we really appreciate that, especially this day and time where it's just a click of a button and you really don't know who you're dealing with. It's a different person you call every time you call that 800 number. You don't know who your agent is. Now they have a face with the name, and it's more personal service.
Grant Dideker, Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, McLennan County agent. If someone wants to contact you, just straight on your cell phone?
Yep, 254-265-0442.
Grant Dideker, Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, a McLennan County agent.
You know what would make this moment better? Pizza. Dough made from scratch and an Italian family sauce recipe pizza. 3 fresh signature cheeses making a melty blanket of perfection pizza. Like loads of premium toppings like crispy Old World pepperoni, savory Italian sausage, and fresh sliced veggies pizza. That's Marco's Pizza. Visit marcos.com and make any moment better. And with 4 locations in Waco, Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and soon to open in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
It takes time to reach goals. It's a truth that applies to more than sports. It goes for your financial goals as well. You work hard for your money, and you deserve an investment strategy that lines up with your game plan. And Tom Albers, your Edward Jones financial advisor, can help. If your financial investments aren't putting forth the effort you desire, stop by today for a financial review. Tom Albers, 4301 Lakeshore Drive, 254-776-7605. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Three Nations Brewing Company has 16 different beers on draft with a new beer every Friday. It also offers 2 air-conditioned tap rooms, a large indoor beer hall, a second-floor mezzanine offering a great overview of the brewing company and equipment and patio where you can relax under the shade. Plus, you can now experience the new Three Nations Beer Garden Grill on our shaded patio with socially distanced seating for your enjoyment. Grab a cold beer and enjoy a bite from our freshly prepared and delicious menu. Street tacos, quesadillas, freshly cooked burgers and dogs and veggie burgers too. State Fair tornado fries, nachos, and so much more, all prepared and cooked on site. So come visit the award-winning Three Nations Brewing Company on East Vandergrift off I-35 in Carrollton.
This is Paul Catalina's Top 5 at 5:55.
Brought to you by Champion Salon and Barber. Make your appointment now. 2 locations. Downtown Waco, just a stone's throw from here. And, of course, in Woodway. They do fantastic work. All right, top 5 coaches sweating after this weekend. I'm not going to call it a hot seat, but these guys are sweating a little bit more because their seasons have not started off very well. Some of them probably safe. Some of them less safe than they were. Some of them definitely not safe at all. Number 5, Darrell at Colorado. They're 1-4. And the second game of the season, went toe-to-toe with A&M, and, that game was way better than a lot of people thought it was going to be and way tighter, but turns out both those teams aren't very good.
Yeah, and Calzada had to rally him in that game, didn't he?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, he did.
Yeah, Colorado a few years ago when they had Steven Montez, who was an El Paso kid at quarterback, and they had Labiska Chenault.
They
had a lot of Texas flavor, actually, even their running backs. But, yeah, they've just kind of fallen off the map post-Montez. And, I haven't watched a lot of them. I did see some of that on Saturday, though. USC was hurting. They're wounded. They're there for the taking. And to their credit, the Trojans got a nice win. So good for interim head coach whose name escapes me right this moment, but also for Graham Harrell and company get that win. But, yeah, Colorado's in a bad way right now.
Yeah. Number 4, Paul Chryst at Wisconsin. Can't get a quarterback.
No.
Graham Mertz is hurt now. He's in the hospital after getting run straight through by Michigan the last play that he played in the game on Saturday. And not being able to recruit a quarterback is probably the number one thing that gets a coach fired. Jack Cohn was there. Of course, now he's off to Notre Dame and getting benched there. So it wasn't even. So you lose a guy who is probably a little bit better than the guy that you had, and it's still not that good. So either way, you would probably not be in a great spot in Wisconsin. Paul Chryst has a lot of goodwill there, and they've had some good seasons under him, but it's starting not to look good right now. What 1-4 for the Badgers?
Yeah, 1-3 or 1-4. Yeah, 1-3, 0-2 in the conference at the bottom of the West, which is Iowa, dominant over everybody else who's a mess.
Yeah, no, they've been bad. I mean, Graham Mertz was terrible before the injury. He was. That was as much of a bugaboo for them as anything else. And, I know that was a big win for Michigan in many ways, but that was not a very good Wisconsin team that they beat. So, Paul Chryst has proven it for a long time, but not a very good year.
Here's an interesting note while you go to the next one. The Big Ten East, number 4 Penn State, number 7 Ohio State, number 9 Michigan, number 11 Michigan State. Of course, they have 5 teams in the top 11 right now.
4.
Top counting Iowa. I'm talking about the conference, the division does, but that's pretty salty right there, at least based on Michigan and Michigan State playing where they are right now.
All right, let's go to number 3, Jeff Scott at USF. Some good things are potentially on the horizon for USF, and they need to clean up the front porch and start winning some football games. And I would think that if they are legitimately a candidate for Big 12 expansion, which they have been rumored to be, that they are going to want to head into that conference and start recruiting for that conference in a couple years with a better head of steam than they have right now.
Yeah, I don't want them in the Big 12 the way they are right now. Yeah. I mean, I know they're not a lock by any means, but
it'll be 2 or 3 years, so they have time. Yeah,
they have time, but you got to get it right in that 2 or 3 years. You hire another bad head coach, it's not going to make a difference. But if you look at coach's hot seat, it's the number 1 choice right here. It's the number 1 hot seat in America based on that website. I know that's not the end all be all, but it's a good indicator. And yeah, they just simply haven't been very good. I mean, they got Tulsa coming up. That should be a winnable game, but then again, probably not. With their 1 win came against Florida A&M. I mean, that's the most gimme win on the schedule. So, I mean, outside of a gimme win, they'd be 0 for right now. So, yeah, South Florida just have lost a lot of steam over, between the coaching changes. Charlie Strong was there for a minute, and just they've lost a lot of steam the last few years.
Was it Levitt that was there for a short
Jim
amount?
Levitt.
Yeah,
he was there. And
who was the one that had success there?
Jim Levitt. Jim Levitt, and then Willie Taggart. For a minute after him. So number 2, Manny Diaz at Miami. And
talked about this earlier.
Yeah. This is the only thing that makes Miami money in their athletic department. I mean, they've got to
football for most.
But I mean, basketball doesn't. Nobody cares about baskall, and they don't play
in Miami.
Yeah, in Miami. Yeah, nobody cares about basketball there.
Be careful.
But yeah, no, but. Manny Diaz, Miami's has a problem. They don't play on campus. They play at the Dolphin Stadium. That's a hard thing to fill up for a school that's 14, 15, 16, 17, 18,000. It's not a big, massive school. It's a small private school. They do a lot of things that people don't even realize at Miami, like great research institution and all the great law school and all these things they have. But they need the front porch of their university cleaned up. And Miami and Florida State play in a couple weeks, and it's not
17,000 students.
Not going to look good. This would be the worst matchup in the history of the rivalry here between 2 teams that look almost exactly the same. They just kind of flop their way through games, and Manny Diaz right at the top of the chopping block because now the president has even said, I'm going to get more involved, which you never want to hear if you're the head coach.
Yeah, I mean, it's the image of Miami is for the nation, not at all what the actual school is like. Yeah. We think of the Hurricanes and the football team. That's not at all what the school even is. But I mean, he won 8 games a year ago, but he hasn't won a bowl game, hasn't really been in contention, and this has been a bad start. And basically iced his own kicker the other night. So that was a terrible loss that they should have won that game the other night. It's not very good right now. I don't know how much of a hot seat he's on really, but I don't have a lot of faith that he's going to be the one to get them back to the promised land.
And AD changing there too, so always something to work at. Number 1, Dino Babers at Syracuse. I know they're 3-2 right now, but if you watch them, they're kind of all over the place, and they have been in his tenure. He's got some wins over Clemson. He's got some kind of random good wins here and there, but nothing consistent. And lost the other day to an 0-4 team. I think his seat's gotten a little hotter too.
Yeah, I agree. It seems like they've they've just kind of become neutral, and the loss to Florida State obviously didn't help him either.
Yeah, but he's right there at the top of most likely firings at this point in time, I'd have to say.
All right, one note about Cincinnati for you Bearcats fans, and we're going to go. This Bearcats are in the top 5. First time a G5 team, a group of 5 team, has entered the top 5 in the Associated Press since Boise State in 2011. It's been a while. Good for them. What a great win that was. We're back at it tomorrow. Jack McKenzie, Armstrong Sims runs the mothership. For Paul, Catalina, Craig Smoak, thanks to you, all of you, chat room, text line, calls, and Twitter. And thanks to our amazing sponsors across the board. Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports, back at it tomorrow at 3. I'm David Smoak. Good night.
Ideal MRI is a small family business right here in Central Texas. We're open to support you while lowering the cost of healthcare bills. When you need an MRI, ask your doctor for an Ideal MRI. Visit us at idealmri.com or call us at 833-IDEAL-MRI.
Stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. See all the things they can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
After my first car accident, I feared the biggest damage would be to my wallet. I expected a mountain of bills and a long, drawn-out process. But my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent was there when I needed her and helped me get back on my feet and in my car in no time. Instead of a hassle, I got reassurance and a quick recovery.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.